Warrior Lore. Chapter 1426. Jialo Changtian smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, generally speaking, you don't have to step into the domain realm anymore. However, there are 6 realms in the nirvana stage of greater and lesser nirvana, namely nirvana, true self, liberation, reincarnation, and finally immortality. Nirvana, true self, liberation, reincarnation, immortality. Du Xiaofu murmured softly. He seemed to have sensed something in his mind. You and Ju are now at the nirvana stage of nirvana, which is equivalent to the initial domain realm. Nirvana stage of nirvana stage is equivalent to the sealed domain realm, and so on. Immortality stage of nirvana stage is equivalent to the main domain realm. However, with your nirvana stage of nirvana stage, I'm afraid you can defeat anyone in the same domain realm. Jialo Changtian said. His golden eyes were filled with shock and yearning. He continued, after immortality stage, it's the legendary saint realm. It's said that immortality stage of nirvana stage is 100 times faster than main domain realm cultivators. There's a 50% chance of breaking through to the saint realm. What kind of existence is the saint realm? Du Xiaofu asked. His eyes were filled with golden brilliance as he looked at the saint realm mentioned by Jialo Changtian. Kid, you should continue to cultivate. Although you're at the nirvana stage of grand nirvana stage, it's also a more difficult cultivation path. It means that extraordinary people can't step into it. If you really reach that step, you'll naturally know what the saint realm is. Jialo Changtian patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder. His eyes were filled with affection as he said, however, with your talent and state of mind, your grandmother said that you have a great chance of stepping into the saint realm in the future. Du Xiaofu didn't ask any more questions. The grandmother that Jialo Changtian mentioned was naturally the old lady. However, Du Xiaofu was very happy that he had been able to fuse with the Golden Crow's heaven-burning Thunder Soul Seed and break free. He had also fused with the Meridian Soul Seed and the Essence Spirit to achieve the Nirvana realm of the Grand Supremacy. This was probably the so-called, one is bound to have good fortune after surviving a calamity. Godfather, I'll go and see Grandma first. Du Xiaofu nodded. A faint golden glow flickered in his clear eyes as he said to Jialo Changtian, I'm planning to return to the Middle Continent in the next few days. There are some things I need to settle. You can go back, but the clan will send people to protect you. Once the news of your nirvana of a greater sovereign is leaked out, the Dragon Clan will be the first to come after you. In addition, half a month later, there will be a ceremony for you to become the young clan leader. You have to attend it. During this half a month, you can go anywhere in the clan to comprehend the nirvana. Or, you can take a stroll around, Jialo Changtian said to Du Xiaofu. All right. Du Xiaofu could only nod. At night, the stars twinkled, and the bright moon scattered across the night sky. Rumble. In a room in a courtyard at the waist of the mountain, there was a simple seal. A beam of light shot out from Du Xiaofu's forehead. It was the ancient, desolate space. Qi. The space around him fluctuated, and Du Xiaofu's figure entered the ancient, desolate space. Roar. In the end, when Du Xiaofu's figure appeared again, he was in a vast ancient square. The huge, heavenly beast hall in front of him was majestic, and the roars of thousands of beasts were faintly resounding. Its aura was astonishing. Swoosh, swoosh, as Du Xiaofu's figure appeared, numerous figures immediately flew out from the heavenly beast hall, accompanied by a powerful and ferocious aura that whistled around the ancient square. Boom! Following the appearance of these figures, the entire vast square began to tremble. However, the ferocious aura did not even lift the corner of Du Xiaofu's clothes. Greetings, third young master. Greetings, palace master. One by one, the figures landed in front of Du Xiaofu. They were Gue Che, Guqin Demon, Phantom Tiger King, Little Ying, Divine Ape King, Fire Wyrm King, Violent Bear King, and others. They have improved a lot. The ancient inheritance is really extraordinary. Looking at the figures in front of him, Du Xiaofu was moved. At this moment, these figures in front of him had a lot of breakthroughs in their cultivation compared to before they entered the heavenly beast hall. Many of those with lower cultivation levels showed signs of consecutive breakthroughs. As for Guiche, Spiritual Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Little Ing, and Fire Dragon King, who were already strong to begin with, they could not make consecutive breakthroughs, but they had all reached the peak of the Nirvana Beast Realm from the Origin Beast Realm. Guiche and Spiritual Tiger King, in particular, not only were their cultivation levels abnormally strong, reaching the peak of the Nirvana Beast Realm, but Guiche was even stronger. The formless aura emanating from the two of them gave off the feeling of a supreme demonic beast. Guiche had received the inheritance of the ancient phoenix, while Spiritual Tiger King had received the inheritance of the ancient white tiger. These were the inheritances of two supreme Yao beasts. They were no small matter. Du Xiaofu swept his gaze across them. Violent Bear King, who had received the inheritance of the ancient heavenly bear, Little Falcon, who had received the inheritance of the ancient Qin Yuan, and Little Ying, who had received the inheritance of the ancient Pu Lao. They had all made astonishing progress. Little Falcon had reached the level of the Origin Beast Realm, while Little Ying and Violent Bear King were both at the peak of the Nirvana Beast Realm. In addition, the Divine Ape King, who had received the inheritance of the ancient Nine Serenities Sky Ape, definitely wasn't any weaker than Guiche. The Divine Ape King was a Nirvana Beast Realm to begin with. As long as it had the right opportunity, it could break through to the Beast region. You may rise. Du Xiaofu waved his sleeve and gestured for everyone to dispense with the formalities. Waves of aura suffused from everyone before him, causing joy to surge out from Du Xiaofu's heart. From now on, these figures would become the overlords of the Beast region. In time, they would be able to change the situation of the entire Beast region. Haha, we're finally out. Everyone stood up. Violent Bear King laughed heartily, his voice shaking the space. Violent Bear King and the others had been receiving the inheritance in the Celestial Beast Hall for more than 10 years. Although 10 years wasn't much for cultivators at their level, they had been waiting to leave the Celestial Beast Hall ever since they received the inheritance. However, they hadn't received any news from the Celestial Beast Hall, so they were a little anxious. It's only been 10 years. It's not that long. Du Xiaofu glanced at Violent Bear King. He felt rather helpless. More than a year had passed since he entered the Golden Crow's Burning Sky Lightning secret realm. The Celestial Beast Hall had been placed in the ancient, desolate space. With 10 times the time, Violent Bear King, Spiritual Tiger King, Guiche, Chinamo, and the others had only been in there for more than 10 years. Indeed, 10 years isn't that long. Violent Bear King smiled awkwardly and nodded. He looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "May I ask what level of cultivation the Hall Master has reached?" 10 years in the Celestial Beast Hall was only a little over a year outside. Violent Bear King knew that. Moreover, Violent Bear King also knew that the Hall Master would benefit from the secret realm of the Golden-Winged Great Peng clan. As a result, the Hall Master probably wouldn't be cultivating in the ancient desolate space during this period of time. Moreover, Violent Bear King had received the inheritance of an ancient celestial bear expert. He knew exactly how much he had benefited from it. As a result, Violent Bear King couldn't help but want to test his strength against Du Xiaofu. However, Violent Bear King didn't think that he could defeat the Hall Master right now. Back then, Du Xiaofu had defeated Jialo Jueliao. So Violent Bear King knew that even if he encountered Jialo Jueliao back then, he definitely wouldn't be able to defeat him with his current strength. Therefore, Violent Bear King just wanted to test his strength and see what level he had reached. At the very least, with his current cultivation, the Hall Master probably wouldn't be able to oppress him like he had in the past. Violent Bear King pondered. It had only been a little over a year. No matter how much the Hall Master had improved, it probably wouldn't be too abnormal. Moreover, Du Xiaofu's aura didn't seem like the aura of a domain realm martialist. This made the Wild Bear King even more confident. Du Xiaofu smiled and said to Violent Bear King, "My cultivation hasn't improved much. It's just a little. Anyway, I won't be able to reach the domain realm." Du Xiaofu wasn't lying. He really couldn't reach the domain realm after undergoing Nirvana Grand Exalt. He really hasn't reached the domain realm. Violent Bear King's eyes lit up when he heard that. "Violent Bear King, do you want to fight the Hall Master?" Little Ying seemed to know what Violent Bear King was thinking. He was afraid that Violent Bear King wouldn't fight, so he immediately spoke up. He obviously wanted to watch the show. In the past 10 years, little Ying had also obtained the inheritance of the ancient Paleo elite. That was no small matter. Even if he encountered a pure-blooded true dragon of the same level, he wouldn't be afraid. Therefore, little Ying wanted to use Violent Bear King to test the gap between him and the Hall Master. Of course, whether it was little Ying or Violent Bear King, it was not that they had second thoughts. They were the kings of the Beast clan. Their bloodlines were extraordinary. They had already sworn allegiance to the Hall Master. Moreover, they had also obtained amazing benefits. Naturally, they wouldn't betray the Hall Master. Right now, Raging Bear King, little Ying, and the others were just feeling a little more confident because of the huge benefits they had received. Hee hee, Violent Bear King chuckled when he heard little Ying's words. He said, I'm definitely no match for the Hall Master. However, if the Hall Master is willing to teach me, I'll definitely give it my all. I also want to know how much I've improved in the past 10 years. Everyone's eyes flickered when they heard Violent Bear King's words. Then, they all looked at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu stood with his hands behind his back and smiled faintly. Du Xiaofu naturally understood Violent Bear King's words. The Violent Bear King was issuing a challenge right now. It seemed like his confidence had grown tremendously after receiving the legacy of the ancient Heavenly Bear for the past 10 years. Violent Bear King, Ying Long, I'm afraid the Hall Master won't even bother to fight any one of you. Why don't you fight together? Perhaps the Hall Master will be willing to test you. Gue Che, who rarely spoke. His scarlet hair was like fire and blood. On his handsome face, his scarlet eyes were sharp and deep. He glanced at Violent Bear King and little Ying. Unconsciously, he gave Violent Bear King and little Ying a sense of endless pressure. Chapter 1427. Little Ying, Violent Bear King, and the others were still wary of Ghost Chariot's aura. Ghost Chariot was already a monstrous existence in the Beast region. Now that he had obtained the inheritance of the ancient Phoenix, both his bloodline and cultivation had reached new heights. Little Ying smiled and said, I'm fine with it. I just don't know if you'll give me a chance. Zither Demon, the ape god, and the others raised their heads slightly and looked at Violent Bear King and little Ying, who were echoing each other. They didn't say anything and just watched the show quietly. I'll give you a chance. Why wouldn't I? Both of you, attack together, Du Xiaofu said, still standing with his hands behind his back. He looked at Violent Bear King and little Ying indifferently with a half-smile. For some reason, looking at the half-smile on Du Xiaofu's face, the Raging Bear King and little Ying suddenly felt a faint sense of uneasiness in their hearts. However, the Savage Bear King immediately suppressed the uneasiness in his heart. Violent Bear King wanted to test his current strength by himself. Now that little Ying was here as well, he had even less to fear. With his current cultivation and little Ying's help, Violent Bear King really didn't believe that the Hall Master before him could trample on him like he did in the Beast region. Little Ying's thoughts were similar to Violent Bear King's. They had all benefited greatly in the past dozen years. He didn't believe that the Hall Master before him could trample on him like he did in the past. Are they going to fight? The Illusion Tiger King, Zither Demon, Ape God, Silver Blood Leopard King, Fire Wyrm King, Little Falcon, and the others' eyes twitched. They seemed to have a tacit understanding. Dozens of figures tapped the ground and immediately retreated, leaving enough space for the three of them to fight. Looking at the doubtful Ying and Raging Bear King, Du Xiaofu maintained the half-smile on his face. He then squinted his eyes and said, What? You don't dare to make a move? Pardon us, Hall Master. As soon as Du Xiaofu said that, little Ying and Violent Bear King shouted at the same time and immediately leapt forward. Boom! In an instant, a terrifying aura surged, causing the void to tremble. The Violent Bear King appeared, wrapped in dazzling yellow light. His eyes were bright as he threw out a punch. Violent Bear King's fist seemed to have brought about a pitch-black spatial halo, shattering space. Runes surged, and the shocking power shook the soul. At the same time, little Ying also made his move. His entire body glowed as he extended his hand. His hand seemed to be covered with a layer of dragon scales. A palm print carried an unparalleled momentum as it slammed towards Du Xiaofu. Both Ferocious Bear King and Little Ying had received the ancient inheritances in the past 10 years or so. Whether it was their cultivation or their auras, they had improved tremendously. However, the two of them also knew how monstrous Du Xiaofu's strength was. Thus, they did not hold back in the slightest when they attacked. Both of them carried a lot of confidence. The three of them were not far from each other to begin with, and with that little distance, Violent Bear King and Young Ying could reach them in a flash. That terrifying power and aura directly enveloped Du Xiaofu. A fist print and a palm print almost arrived in front of Du Xiaofu at the same time. Bang! Bang! Their speed was too fast, faster than lightning. Violent Bear King and Young Ying's fist print and palm print landed heavily on Du Xiaofu's chest under the stunned gazes of Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King, Guqin Demon, and the others. Runes exploded, and a terrifying aura swept out, causing the surrounding square to tremble. Violent Bear King and Young Ying's expressions changed drastically. They did not expect that the Palace Master would not be able to dodge. In just an instant, Violent Bear King and Young Ying seemed to have discovered that the Palace Master was right in front of them. It was not that they could not dodge, but that their combined attacks were unable to shake the purple-robed figure. Boom! The space trembled, and Du Xiaofu's body was like a boulder. He took the Violent Bear King and Young Ying's fists and palms head-on, but only managed to lift his purple robe a little. In the next instant, just as Young Ying and Violent Bear King's fists and palms were about to land, Du Xiaofu moved. He raised his arms and stretched out his hands, like two dragons emerging from the sea and two stars piercing the sun. Two golden light fist prints were like lightning, and they landed on Young Ying and Violent Bear King's bodies. Bang! Bang! In the blink of an eye, Little Ying's and Raging Bear King's bodies shot backwards in response. They did not even turn back. After flying several dozen feet away, the two of them landed on the square, causing the ground to shake. Violent Bear King and Young Ying crawled up, their bodies in a sorry state, and their faces were pale. What was even worse was that their fists and palms that landed on Du Xiaofu's chest had caused their arms to spasm, and small cracks had appeared on their arms as blood flowed out. Young Ying and Violent Bear King looked at the purple-robed youth in front of them as if they had seen a ghost. They clearly knew that when their attacks landed on that body, not only did it not shake it in the slightest, but that body was also like the toughest steel, causing their fists and palms to crack. After which, their bodies were also sent flying by that unstoppable force. The invisible and terrifying power that was faintly emitted from the purple-robed youth was not something that they could block. Raging Bear King and Little Ying had a feeling that if the Temple Master had really wanted to deal with them, he could have killed them on the spot with a single blow. They did not look like they were in a sorry state, but in fact, they were not seriously injured. The surrounding beasts were even more shocked at this moment. They originally wanted to watch the show, but who would have thought that Violent Bear King and Young Ying would be sent flying with a single blow? They could not even withstand a single blow. Gulp, gulp. Little Falcon, Fire Wyrm King, Silver Blood Leopard King, and the others swallowed their saliva in shock. You're asking for it. Guiche looked at Violent Bear King and Young Ying from afar and spoke indifferently. However, when he looked at the purple-robed youth, his blood-red eyes rippled violently. It seemed like this outcome had exceeded Ghost Chariot's expectations. All right, come with me. Du Xiaofu patted the dust off his purple robes, flicked his sleeve, and left. Violent Bear King and Young Ying looked at each other and clicked their tongues. They lowered their heads slightly, like frosted eggplants. They no longer dared to raise their heads. The two of them had originally thought that they would be able to hold their heads high after obtaining such astonishing benefits. Who would have thought that in the end, even the Palace Master's physical body could not be shaken at all when the two of them joined forces and attacked him with all their might. It was likely that the Palace Master's terrifying physical body alone was enough to trample them to death. The next morning, outside the courtyard, Du Xiaofu stretched his back and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. His eyes flickered slightly. Du Xiaofu had learned yesterday that Xiaolong had already left the golden-winged Great Rocks for the Beast region. Zixuan had also come out of seclusion a month ago and left the golden-winged Great Rocks. What made Du Xiaofu's heart tremble even more was that his sister, Xiaojing, had actually come to the golden-winged great rocks to look for him. "My sister, it looks like you've recovered. It won't be long before I go find you and mother again," Du Xiaofu muttered softly. He felt the vigorous and surging profound energy in his body at this moment, and the might that could shatter space with a raise of his hand. The corners of his mouth curled into a slight smile, and then his figure disappeared from the spot. Swoosh! When Du Xiaofu's figure reappeared, he was already outside the old lady's courtyard. "You're here? Come in." The old lady's voice rang out from the courtyard. A Nirvana sovereign should be hard to find a match among those of the same generation. It should be even harder to find a match among those of the same cultivation level. Within the courtyard, the old lady looked at Du Xiaofu with some affection on her aged face. She said, "However, there are many hidden experts in this world. You still have to be careful when you leave the clan this time. When the day comes when you can reach the Nirvana realm, there won't be many people in this world who can do anything to you. I will work hard to cultivate." Du Xiaofu nodded at the old lady as he swept the courtyard. "With your talent, you'll definitely have a chance." The old lady smiled and said, "You've refined your divine body to great success, and you've also cultivated the cultivation method of the golden-winged great rocks. However, I've seen you fight. Of the 3 basic divine abilities of the golden-winged great rocks, you've only obtained 2. There's still one that's lacking by quite a bit." "Grandma, what 3 divine abilities?" Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's interest was immediately piqued. He straightened his back and looked at the old lady with anticipation. The old lady smiled and said, "The 3 basic divine abilities of our clan are the physical divine ability, the strength divine ability, and the speed divine ability. You've cultivated the physical divine ability and the strength divine ability well, but you haven't displayed much of your speed. Your speed is not bad, but it seems to be mixed with the footwork of other clans." Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered. Indeed, his speed was not slow. However, it was usually only fast after activating the rock descending to the 9th heaven. And just as the old lady said, it was also compatible with Dongli Qingqing's rippling carefree steps. The speed of the golden-winged great rocks was already rare in this world. It was probably even stronger than their physical body and strength. The great rocks rose with the wind and soared up to 90,000 miles. This was already enough to show the terrifying speed of the golden-winged great rocks. The speed divine ability should be the first of the 3 basic divine abilities of our clan. In terms of speed, there probably aren't many creatures in this world that can compare to our clan. The old lady continued to say to Du Xiaofu, "If you can cultivate the speed divine ability to greater mastery, you should be like a tiger that has grown wings." "Grandma, how should I cultivate the speed divine ability?" Du Xiaofu's eyes began to emit a golden light. The speed divine ability is harder to cultivate. After all, you don't have the complete body of the golden-winged great rocks. However, if you can cultivate the divine body to greater mastery, it doesn't mean that you don't have a chance. The old lady smiled and said, "The clan has a set of speed divine ability called Rock ascending to 10,000 miles. If you can cultivate it, you will definitely be like a tiger that has grown wings. At least in terms of speed, there won't be many creatures that can compete with you." Little Yu has finished his 2nd exam today. Starting tomorrow, he will make up for it. He won't explode all at once. Otherwise, he might not be able to handle it. However, he will continue to update every day. Brothers and sisters who have finished reading, rest early. Chapter 1428. Translator. H2DH2 Mr. As her voice fell, a brilliant beam of golden light shot out from between the old lady's brows, arriving before Du Xiaofu's brows at lightning speed. Du Xiaofu did not block it at all, allowing that brilliant beam of light to enter between his brows. His eyes closed slightly amidst that brilliant golden light. The brilliant beam of light entered between Du Xiaofu's brows, turning into a huge amount of information. The golden light exploded within his mind, and in the end, it was as if there was a golden-winged rock soaring into the sky. That was the cultivation method of the rock of 10,000 li, the speed mystique of the golden-winged rock race. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's mind was focused, and he began to comprehend it. His eyes closed slightly, like an old monk in meditation. The old lady smiled and picked up the broom on the ground. Her hunched figure stumbled as she slowly swept the courtyard. It looked ordinary, but if one looked closely, every movement she made seemed to be one with the space, exuding a profound mystery. This continued for an entire day, all the way until evening, when the sun began to set in the west. Only then did Du Xiaofu open his eyes. Golden light flashed, as if the shadow of a golden-winged rock was about to leap out. Then, it quietly retracted, and the corners of his lips curled up into a slight smile. "How is your comprehension coming along?" The old lady appeared before Du Xiaofu. "I'm almost done with my comprehension. I just don't know if I can successfully cultivate it," answered Du Xiaofu honestly. Hearing this, the old lady's eyes flashed with surprise. The rock of 10,000 li was extraordinary. That was the most elite mystique cultivation method of the golden-winged rock race. It was rumored that when cultivated to the extreme, one could truly soar up 90,000 li. Even the most talented golden-winged great rocks wouldn't dare to say that they could comprehend it in a month, let alone half a day. Although you have already comprehended it, it is not easy to cultivate rocks soaring 10,000 li. You need to go to a special place to cultivate, and there is no suitable place in the clan. However, not far from the clan, there is a place called Storm Turbulence Vortex. It is said that it was a space vortex torn apart by a great battle between ancient experts. No one knows why it has never healed. The space inside is chaotic, and there are astral winds and turbulence in space. If one's cultivation is not high enough, one's soul will be destroyed. However, it is a good place to cultivate rocks soaring 10,000 li. It will allow you to achieve twice the result with half the effort. If you want to cultivate, you can ask the clan members to take you there. The old lady retracted her surprised expression. A guy who could refine the divine body to a large success level, a great supreme being undergoing nirvana. What else couldn't happen? This brat himself was a monstrous human. Night fell, and the sun set in the west. Du Xiaofu left the old lady's courtyard. He was in mid-air, looking at the bright moon that had just risen in the sky. His eyes moved slightly, and then his purple robe fluttered, and his figure flew into the distance. "Brat, you came here so late. Are you looking for your foster father to drink?" In the great hall of the golden-winged great rocks, Jialo Changtian looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. There was less arrogance and domineering aura in his eyes and more kindness. His gaze was like he was looking at his real children, and there was a hint of casualness. "I have plenty of time to drink with foster father. I plan to cultivate rocks soaring 10,000 li in the storm turbulence vortex for half a month. When I come back, I will drink with foster father." Du Xiaofu thought of the good wine that he had drunk with his foster father, Jialo Changtian, and felt a little greedy. That wine was definitely not an ordinary one, and even he got drunk. "Did you get the cultivation method of rock soaring 10,000 li? I was going to give it to you in a few days." Jialo Changtian smiled. He was not surprised that Du Xiaofu had the cultivation method of rock soaring 10,000 li, but he was a little surprised that Du Xiaofu could cultivate rock soaring 10,000 li in half a month. He said, "However, cultivating rock soaring 10,000 li is not something that can be done in a short time. Don't be too hasty. I will give it a try first. Anyway, I will be back in half a month at the latest." Du Xiaofu had made up his mind. Now, he focused on cultivating rock soaring 10,000 li. Anyway, he had nowhere to go in half a month. As for the secret places of the golden-winged great rocks, he would have the opportunity to go there in the future. "Well, tomorrow, I will ask your sister to take you to the storm turbulence vortex. It is outside the clan, but it is not far from the clan. There is no danger there." Seeing that Du Xiaofu had made up his mind, Jialo Changtian did not say anything more. "Also, there is one more thing that I want to ask you to decide." Du Xiaofu said to Jialo Changtian, "Although you are my adopted son, we are also father and son now. There is no need to be so formal. Just say it." Jialo Changtian said. Du Xiaofu smiled and said, "I want to strengthen the bloodline of some of the younger generation in the clan. What do you think?" "Strengthen the bloodline?" Jialo Changtian heard this and thought that he had misheard. He looked at Du Xiaofu in astonishment and doubt. Strengthening one's bloodline was far more difficult than strengthening one's soul. There were some natural treasures in the world that could help strengthen one's soul, but it was impossible to find any natural treasures to strengthen one's bloodline. The nobility of the golden-winged great roc's bloodline was obvious. However, the bloodline of the current golden-winged great rocks was naturally much thinner compared to the ancient ancestors. If the bloodline could be strengthened, not to mention the level of the ancient ancestors, even if it was just a little bit, it would be immensely beneficial. Yes, strengthen the bloodline. Du Xiaofu nodded seriously. Do you have any natural treasures that can strengthen the bloodline? How many can you strengthen? Jialo Changtian's eyes shone with golden light. If he could strengthen the bloodline of one or two of the younger generation, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. Unfortunately, no matter how strong the golden-winged great rocks were and how many natural treasures they had, they could not strengthen the bloodline of the younger generation. It is not a natural treasure, but it should be able to strengthen the bloodline of the younger generation. Du Xiaofu smiled. He knew that he would not be able to talk it out with Jialo Changtian for the time being. Therefore, as soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu reached out his hand. Purple-gold electric arcs began to overflow in his palm. In an instant, the light was blinding and an ancient aura with a destructive aura spread out. In the end, a three-legged cauldron appeared in his palm. Boom! A destructive and overbearing aura suddenly filled the hall. At this moment, Jialo Changtian's golden eyes suddenly trembled. The aura that spread out from the three-legged cauldron made him tremble. To be honest, this is the divine thunder cauldron. It can be used to refine the body and strengthen the martial veins. It can also strengthen the bloodline of the beast clan. Du Xiaofu said. He revealed the purple thunder cauldron in front of Jialo Changtian, revealing his biggest secret. This also proved that Du Xiaofu had placed the golden-winged great rocks on his list of most trusted clans. Only when the golden-winged great rocks were stronger would he be more powerful. In Du Xiaofu's heart, he had never thought of relying on the golden-winged great rocks. Even now that he had become the young clan leader of the golden-winged great rocks, Du Xiaofu had never thought of relying on the golden-winged great rocks for him. In Du Xiaofu's heart, he had always been sure that his own strength was the true strength. He was undefeatable only when he was undefeatable. However, Du Xiaofu also knew that what he was facing now was not ordinary. The devil religion and legalism were real giants. The 9 cauldrons of Kyushu were used to suppress the demons in the sealed ancient lands. Not long ago, the demons escaped and 8 of the cauldrons were taken away by them. However, rumor has it that only the divine thunder cauldron in the sealed ancient lands is still missing. It seems like this is the divine thunder cauldron in the sealed ancient lands. Jialo Changtian stared at the purple lightning profound cauldron in Du Xiaofu's hand. Golden light seemed to overflow from the depths of his eyes. His body trembled slightly and his hair fluttered in the wind. Then, he suddenly burst out laughing. His laughter reverberated in the main hall. He said, "There is no need to worry that my golden-winged Great Pung Bird clan won't be fortunate enough." As the clan leader of the golden-winged Great Rocks, how could Jialo Changtian not know about the divine thunder cauldron? Unfortunately, there was a ban in this world. The 9 sealed ancient lands above Kyushu were forbidden from allowing other races to enter except for the forces above the Kyushu. This was especially true for the 9 great clans, dragons, phoenixes, and golden-winged great rocks. They were not allowed to enter. At this moment, a divine thunder cauldron directly appeared in front of him. How could Jialo Changtian not be excited? The next morning, Gue Che, Guqin Devil, Phantom Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Ape God King, and the others were pulled into the main hall of the golden-winged great rocks by Du Xiaofu. When they saw many of the younger generation, elders, and protectors in the main hall, they clicked their tongues and felt an inexplicable pressure. When they saw Gue Che, Ape God King, Phantom Tiger King, and Violent Bear King, the experts of the golden-winged great rocks were also surprised. At this moment, the aura emitted from the Ape God King, Gue Che, and Phantom Tiger King was completely different from before. But then, all eyes fell on Du Xiaofu. In the hall, Jialo Jueyu, Jialo Juekong, and the others were called to the hall early in the morning. When they learned that the matter seemed to be related to Du Xiaofu, they looked at each other in surprise. Some of the elders and protectors seemed to know something, especially the first elder, second elder, and third elder. When they saw Du Xiaofu coming with Gue Che, Chinamo, and the others, their eyes were fixed on Du Xiaofu. Greetings, young clan leader. In the hall, the younger generation of the golden-winged great rocks bowed when they saw Du Xiaofu. When did the hall master become the young clan leader of the golden-winged great rocks? No way. Don't scare me. Phantom Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and Little Ying looked at each other in surprise. They did not know that Du Xiaofu had become the young clan leader of the golden-winged great rocks. Rise. Du Xiaofu walked into the hall and waved his purple robe, indicating for everyone to rise. A powerful aura spread out. Chapter 1429. Becoming a king at a young age, establishing a barren country, becoming an emperor, the fortune of a country and the power of faith, the nirvana of a great supreme. All of this gave Du Xiaofu the ability to stand proudly in the golden-winged great rock clan and suppress everyone. As Du Xiaofu walked into the main hall, Jialo Changtian nodded slightly at Du Xiaofu. Then, with a sweep of his long sleeve, a burst of golden light burst out, channeling the golden runes that filled the entire main hall. Boom! The entire main hall suddenly trembled, and the surrounding space was faintly distorted, as if a seal had been set up. Du Xiaofu understood and stretched out his palm. Purple electric arcs rippled, and then the purple lightning profound cauldron floated above his palm. A domineering and destructive aura suddenly swept out. However, when they saw the divine lightning cauldron in Du Xiaofu's palm, the great elder, the second elder, and many other elders and protectors of the golden-winged great rock clan were stunned. Then, their eyes shrunk and their breathing quickened. Ha 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 ha, our golden-winged great rock clan is lucky. After a long time, the great elder's body trembled, and his old face couldn't help but laugh. His laughter reverberated in the main hall and shook it endlessly. Rumble! The calm sky suddenly surged with wind and clouds, accompanied by the sound of lightning and thunder. The vast mountain range and the land were like a barren land of death. The wind whistled in the air, and nothing was born here. It was like the end of the world. In the distance, a huge spatial vortex suddenly appeared out of thin air, suspended in the air like a black hole. Swoosh, swoosh, two golden silhouettes rushed over like lightning towards the terrifying whirlpool. They rushed into the huge whirlpool and finally stopped at the edge of the whirlpool. The two figures, a man and a woman, were wrapped in golden light. They were Du Xiaofu and Jialo Kaling, who came out of the golden-winged great rock clan. This is the storm turbulence vortex. There are powerful astral winds and spatial turbulence inside, and ordinary martial domain realm cultivators do not dare to go deep. If they are unlucky, they will be destroyed by the spatial turbulence and astral winds. The deeper you look, the stronger the violent spatial turbulence and astral winds. If you want to cultivate rock sort of 10,000 miles, don't go too deep. Jialo Kaling said to Du Xiaofu. Her valiant and peerless face showed that she was not joking. The storm turbulence vortex was definitely not ordinary great rock. I understand. Du Xiaofu nodded. He was not a careless person. The ancient, desolate space flew out from between his eyebrows and fluctuated the space. After letting Jialo Kaling enter the purple lightning cauldron in the ancient, desolate space to undergo the divine thunder body tempering, he immediately kept the ancient, desolate space. Looking up at the violent vortex above his head, Du Xiaofu squinted his eyes. After a while, his purple robe shook and his figure flew into the vortex. Swoosh, swoosh. The area of the vortex was beyond Du Xiaofu's imagination. It was like a boundless space crack. However, the destructive power of the violent astral winds and spatial turbulence was beyond Du Xiaofu's imagination. It was enough to destroy the physical body of an ordinary martial honorable realm cultivator. No wonder no ordinary people come here, Du Xiaofu thought to himself. He had already left the golden-winged rock clan's territory. However, there were no signs of life nearby. With such a mysterious and terrifying place, ordinary people would not dare to set foot in it. Moreover, this place was not a treasure ground. Those experts would not come here for no reason. Du Xiaofu's body was wrapped in a golden brilliance. He had an abnormal physical body. His figure went deep into the storm vortex at lightning speed. The destructive tearing power of the spatial turbulence and astral winds was not enough to stop Du Xiaofu for the time being. The deeper he went, the better the effect of cultivating the rock soaring 1,000 miles. Du Xiaofu wanted to go deeper within the limits of his physical body. Feeling the destructive tearing power around him, Du Xiaofu did not dare to be careless. He treated it carefully. After 15 minutes, Du Xiaofu was finally in front of him. He felt an increasingly violent tearing, and his physical body started to hurt. It was obvious that there was an even more violent energy raging in front of him. What a strange place. Du Xiaofu was surprised. He felt the violent aura in front of him. He wondered if anyone dared to enter the deepest part of the storm vortex. Whoosh! The astral winds whistled like waves. The spatial turbulence was like knives. If one was not careful, it was enough to cut a person into a bloody mist. It was impossible for a person to step into the terrifying storm vortex. It was enough to sweep a person out. Rumble! Du Xiaofu stood in front of the most violent storm. The space in front of him was almost chaotic, and there were pitch-black blades of light flashing out from time to time, accompanied by the occasional sound of thunder, which shook the world and reverberated in this space. The vastness and destruction shocked Du Xiaofu, even with his cultivation and strength. He felt insignificant for no reason. Cultivate the rock of 10,000 miles. A moment later, he gritted his teeth and rushed into the most violent storm vortex in front of him. Swish! As Du Xiaofu's figure approached, the violent astral winds seemed to be attracted by something and immediately pulled towards Du Xiaofu. The earth-shattering astral winds turned into a storm that enveloped Du Xiaofu like a tornado. It tore the space apart and created even more spatial turbulence. It was as if the entire space was about to collapse at any time. However, the moment the astral winds approached Du Xiaofu, they were immediately blocked by Du Xiaofu's body. These astral winds were no small matter. They were enough to tear any martial sovereign into pieces. However, Du Xiaofu's current physical body was still able to withstand them. Rock of 10,000 miles. As the astral winds swept over, Du Xiaofu did not retreat. Instead, he advanced and faced it head-on. He formed a seal with his hands, and golden runes suddenly erupted from his body. It was as if a golden sun had risen in this space. The golden runes wrapped around his body and faintly transformed into the shadow of a golden-winged rock. Walala! The astral winds howled violently. The spatial turbulence swept everywhere as if it was destroying everything. Du Xiaofu's body was wrapped in golden runes. Like a human-shaped golden-winged rock, he spread his wings and faced the astral winds head-on. He flapped the spatial waves and soared upwards. Du Xiaofu was cultivating the rock of 10,000 miles. It was the top speed ability of the golden-winged rock race. Once he mastered it, he would be able to soar 90,000 miles with the wind. How shocking and powerful was that? However, at this moment, if anyone knew that Du Xiaofu was cultivating a speed ability in this spatial whirlpool that could destroy any honorable realm cultivator, they would probably suck in a cold breath. This was simply risking his life to cultivate. And this kind of cultivation method, if such a supreme ability was placed in the outside world, even if someone was able to cultivate it, they would not be able to succeed. The storm turbulence vortex wasn't a place that anyone could enter as they wished. Moreover, Du Xiaofu was currently moving against the wind, hitting nothing but air. The night sky bathed the earth. The stars were dense, like the scales rippling in the sea, twinkling. Mountain ranges overlapped each other, looking majestic. Whoosh! A figure landed on a mountain peak from the night sky. In the night sky, he looked hazy. He looked like he was not even 70 years old, but he looked as if he could look down on the world. He spoke with a majestic voice. Feudal Marshal, show yourself. Haha, I didn't expect Shengguang to have also broken through to the martial domain realm. Congratulations. Laughter sounded, and a majestic figure landed directly in front of the old man. He looked slightly younger, but the invisible aura on his body was not inferior to that of the old man. Let's talk about business. How's the investigation going? Did you find that item? The first old man spoke. He was none other than Shengguang, heavenly lord of the divine light court. However, at this moment, there was some fear in his eyes as he looked at the latter. Hearing Shengguang, heavenly lord's words, the old man who was called feudal marshal suddenly became gloomy. He said, "This time, my spirit heaven valley has suffered heavy losses. The spirit array domain lord and the spirit cloud domain lord are dead. The desolate nation must repay this debt tenfold." Shengguang, heavenly lord, frowned slightly, as if he was not the least bit interested in how many people had died in Spirit Heaven Valley. He said, "Do you mean that there is no news of that item? The evil Purifying Alliance army has not even stepped into the desolate nation. How could there be news of that item?" Feudal Marshal looked at Shengguang, heavenly lord, and said, "Are you sure that the item is in the desolate nation?" Of course, Tianwu Academy has already been destroyed, and only a few members of the younger generation managed to escape the calamity. If I'm not wrong, the item in Tianwu Academy should have been handed over to the student who has the highest chance of keeping it. From the looks of it, that person should be that lad, Du Xiaofu. Shengguang, heavenly lord's eyes flickered as he said in a deep voice that Du Xiaofu's whereabouts are unknown. However, I have received news that that kid is now in the golden-winged Great Rock Clan. As long as that kid comes out, the golden-winged Great Rock Clan will definitely die. There is no need to worry. As for the item in Tianwu Academy, it is very likely that that kid has placed it in the Desolate Nation or the Du family. As long as we can obtain that item, you know what it means. As far as I know, that grand event is about to begin. It is a peerless opportunity. You also know what it means to obtain that item. Feudal Marshal looked at Shengguang, heavenly lord, the corners of his eyes twitching as he said, "Are you sure that that kid Du Xiaofu will definitely die this time?" Of course, he will definitely die. No matter how powerful he is, as long as he comes out of the golden-winged Great Rock Clan, he will definitely die. Shengguang, heavenly lord, had absolute confidence. According to the news he had received, as long as Du Xiaofu came out of the golden-winged Great Rock Clan, it would be difficult for him to escape. He would not have the chance to escape like before. Chapter 1430. Although Du Xiaofu is only a junior, his involvement is not small. He will be a huge threat in the future. It would be best if he dies this time. Feudal Marshal's face was gloomy as he looked at Shengguang, heavenly sovereign. My spirit Sky Valley is also in contact with the Great Luan sect and the Sky Snake sect. We cannot tolerate the desolate country's world assembly any longer. They will be a huge threat in the future and must be eradicated as soon as possible. Once you confirm that Du Xiaofu has been eradicated, my spirit Sky Valley will join forces with the Great Luan sect and the Sky Snake sect to wipe out the desolate country's world assembly. Currently, it's not convenient for my divine light court to do anything. I will have to rely on you to obtain the item from Tianwu Academy. Do not leak any information. Otherwise, I'm afraid that the Sky Snake sect and the Great Luan sect will also interfere. Shengguang, heavenly sovereign, said, "Once there is news about Du Xiaofu, I will inform you immediately." That's good. Feudal Marshal nodded. As soon as he finished speaking, light rippled from his body and his figure disappeared from the mountain peak. Looking at the disappearing silhouette of tyrannical Marshal, Shengguang, heavenly sovereign's eyes flashed with a cold light. He muttered to himself, "Wait till I obtain the item from Tianwu Academy. Everything will change. I hope that the item isn't with Du Xiaofu. Otherwise, it will fall into the hands of the demonic sect." Rumble. The beast region was a vast land. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Clouds surged as an endless aura seeped out from the 9 heavens. Roar. A dragon's roar resounded through the 9 heavens. A huge dragon coiled in the sky. It looked ferocious and mighty, but the aura on its body was even more powerful than a real dragon. The dragon's wings were like phoenix wings, spreading red-purple flames. Starlight flowed on the surface of its body. There was also the aura of a golden-winged rock and a terrifying aura of a supreme being. It swept through the sky. Roar. Blood chi soared into the sky, and killing intent surged. Tens of thousands of beasts seemed to be fighting a bloody battle. However, at this moment, under the terrifying pressure of the dragon, The tens of thousands of demonic beasts all trembled and roared. Above the dragon's head, there was a divine ring that looked like a divine fire. It was filled with the might of the heavens. There were a total of 8 rings, and the 9th ring was slowly forming. When the 9th divine ring of fire was formed, a golden pillar of light came from above the 9 heavens and enveloped the dragon that was soaring into the sky. The strange dragon flickered with radiance. It was as if a true dragon was flying through the sky, absorbing the energy of heaven and earth from all directions. It was refining its flesh and forging its dragon soul, filling the surroundings with light. Rumble. In the next instant, large thunderclouds gathered high up in the sky. The surroundings were dark, making one's heart palpitate. Chi-la-la, bolts of lightning directly swept down from the thunder clouds, as if a thunderstorm was descending. Lightning and torrential rain descended, piercing through space. The vast momentum was like destruction, causing the tens of thousands of beasts below to tremble in fear. However, after the lightning struck, it did not destroy everything. Instead, it turned into mysterious runes and surges of mysterious power that charged into the bodies of the 10,000 beasts. Oh my God, this is a great opportunity, a great opportunity. Hurry up and get the opportunity. Hurry up. Some demonic beast experts discovered this benefit and immediately rushed out with a roar. They fought for the best position to get the power of the lightning into their flesh. Roar, thunder resounded, and tens of thousands of beasts roared. In this dark and heart-palpitating world, there was an uproar. The strange dragon raised its head and soared into the sky. Its entire body was connected with the golden pillar of light, as if it had become one. The runes were densely packed and dazzling, as if a divine dragon was in the sky. Between heaven and earth, there was a vast and boundless plain. Time seemed to have lost its meaning in this place. A palace was suspended in mid-air. There was nothing to lift it up, and there were no traces of runes. It appeared miraculously in mid-air, like a miracle. A middle-aged man in a plain robe stood outside the palace with his hands behind his back. He could not hide his ethereal temperament, as if he was the ruler of this world, the nirvana of a greater supreme. This is the 4th one. Even I can't guess the origin of this little guy. Where did he come from? The middle-aged man slightly raised his head and looked at the sky, muttering softly. There's movement from within the beast region. Quickly investigate. At the same time, many figures stepped into the sky and made calculations with their fingers. Their eyes were filled with shock. They were the most powerful existences in the world. They could sense the changes coming from within the beast region. In the vast world of the beast region, the lightning and torrential rain didn't last for too long. After only a few hours, it began to stop. Everything calmed down in the sky. Only the enormous strange dragon remained in the sky. At this moment, the invisible aura emanating from its body caused the world to tremble. Sizzle, sizzle. Finally, the strange dragon opened its eyes. Golden flames burned in its golden eyes, as if they contained 2 vast seas of golden fire. A terrifying, strange, and complex pressure descended from its body. Under this terrifying pressure, the tens of thousands of demonic beasts below trembled. They simply couldn't muster the will to resist. Roar, a dragon's roar reverberated through the sky. The sound waves rolled, causing all the demonic beasts to prostrate themselves. Under the dragon's might, all of them trembled. Light enveloped the sky. The strange dragon coiled up, its might soaring into the heavens. It was much more powerful than the pure-blooded descendants of true dragons. Congratulations to the Purple Dragon Emperor for breaking through. Half of the demonic beasts below revealed looks of pleasant surprise and prostrated themselves. At this moment, the remaining half of the demonic beasts' eyes trembled and their bodies trembled. Will you submit to me or die? The strange dragon soared through the sky and looked down at the tens of thousands of demonic beasts below. Its roar was like thunder, but its voice was extremely crisp and tender. The demonic beasts looked at each other and trembled. Just looking at the dragon's eyes was enough to make their hair stand on end. Greetings, Purple Dragon Emperor. In the end, the stronger the demonic beasts, the faster they submitted. Nirvana of a greater supreme. What a strange dragon. Follow me back to the clan and join the heavenly serpent clan. Suddenly, a voice that reeked of blood reverberated in the air, and a huge pitch-black snake appeared in the air. No one knew how long this pitch-black snake was. Half of its body was hidden in the sea of clouds high up in the sky. Its scarlet tongue flickered, and a fishy smell assailed their nostrils. However, its aura was so powerful that everyone trembled. This strange dragon is strange, but it should follow me back to the demon vulture clan. Its roar pierced through the clouds and cracked rocks. A huge bird with monstrous demonic aura rolled over and instantly covered the sky. Its might was not inferior to that of the pitch-black snake. I think this strange dragon should follow me back to the ancient Thunder Elephant clan. Who dares to compete with my ancient Thunder Elephant clan? With a loud roar, a huge elephant descended with lightning and thunder. When its 4 feet landed, for mountains turned into ashes. The surrounding gravel scattered like a storm. When the giant elephant descended, it was like a mountain of lightning. It was terrifying and overflowing. How intimidating was that? This strange dragon is related to us dragons. Naturally, it should follow me back to the dragons. Who dares to touch it? An indifferent and dignified voice was heard. A huge dragon appeared in the sky. Its huge body could not be seen. The dragon's eyes seemed to be swooping down from the sky, looking down at the common people. So what if it's dragons? This strange dragon does not have the bloodline of dragons. Come to think of it, its aura is related to my Phoenix clan. Colorful light descended, and colorful clouds rolled. The space was ablaze for no reason. A huge and boundless phoenix descended. Its colorful eyes were like stars descending, staring at the earth. Tens of thousands of demonic beasts in the surroundings trembled. Suddenly, those powerful and terrifying existences descended. Just their aura alone made tens of thousands of demonic beasts crawl. They did not dare to move at all. Even their beast souls were emitting a chill. They were extremely nervous. In the sky, Little Star looked around. Golden flames flickered in its eyes. It was slightly dignified. Rumble. Suddenly, a rumble resounded in the sky. In an instant, thousands upon thousands of ink-black and dazzling runes shot out. They turned into a rain of light that rose and fell in the sky. They revealed the profundities of the world, and they brought with them strands of primal chaos chi. In the next moment, the bright ink-black runes enveloped Little Star. It was as if it had turned into a huge vortex that could swallow everything in the world. The huge pitch-black vortex seemed to want to swallow the entire earth. The scene was extremely terrifying. During the great calamity back then, the sun and moon fell, the stars collapsed, and the Almighty fell. Thousands of years have passed. In the blink of an eye, the sea has turned into mulberry fields. The old voice reverberated between heaven and earth. It seemed to have transcended the ancient time and space. It said, "This little guy is not something you can touch. You should go back and prepare to face the great calamity." As the voice fell, the ink-black vortex that could swallow the world disappeared instantly. Along with Little Star's huge body, it also disappeared. Who interfered? Show yourself if you have the ability. The huge pitch-black snake raised its head and roared. However, all of this happened too quickly. The old voice carried a kind of deterrence and influence. It seemed to be filled with a kind of magic. By the time it realized it, it was already too late. Could it be that old tortoise? Is he still alive in this world? The boundless 7-colored phoenix narrowed its eyes. It seemed to be in deep thought. One after another, extremely powerful figures came quickly and left even faster. In an instant, they disappeared in mid-air. The tens of thousands of beasts below trembled. They were unable to recover for a long time. Walala! In the dim space, astral winds whistled and spatial turbulence raged. Swoosh! In the violent astral wind vortex, there was a figure. It moved against the wind. Golden runes flickered around its body. It was dazzling. At this moment, the figure was enveloped by the dazzling runes. It seemed to have transformed into a golden-winged rock. It floated up and down in the astral wind vortex. It flapped its wings and soared into the sky. The scene was extremely shocking. At this moment, if anyone was here, they would definitely be dumbfounded. The terrifying astral wind was accompanied by spatial turbulence. Cultivators below the martial domain realm would be destroyed if they touched it. At this moment, the figure was actually moving against the wind. It opened its arms and seemed to be flapping its wings. How terrifying! Chapter 1431. That figure was naturally Du Xiaofu. His entire body was wrapped in golden talisman runes. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes were tightly shut as he immersed himself in the cultivation of the rock of 10,000 miles. At this moment, Du Xiaofu seemed to have transformed himself into a human-shaped rock. He was constantly evolving, imitating, cultivating, and comprehending the rock of 10,000 miles. Swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, a large area of spatial turbulence erupted. Numerous pitch-black spatial rifts cut through space like pitch-black blades. In an instant, they swept towards Du Xiaofu. That terrifying destructive power cut through space and affected the rules of space. It was definitely not something that could be blocked with a simple defense. Du Xiaofu was startled awake. Golden light erupted from his body as he transformed into an illusory rock. He flapped his wings in this chaotic space and escaped from those pitch-black spatial rifts at an incredible speed. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The spatial turbulence erupted and suddenly became violent. Numerous pitch-black light blades danced in the astral winds as they chased after Du Xiaofu. Boom! Feeling the commotion behind him, Du Xiaofu's body was surrounded by golden light. It was as if streaks of golden light were falling down. There was a strange and mysterious energy revolving around him that seemed to be able to distort the surrounding space. His speed was even faster than lightning. With a shake of his arm, he was like a rock flapping its wings. Containing the mysteries of the heavens, he could strike down the stars and cut through space. Du Xiaofu directly escaped from those pitch-black spatial light blades. Swoosh, swoosh. The astral wind vortex surged as if it had been provoked by Du Xiaofu. It surged violently and rumbled as it crushed towards Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu's eyes were focused as he wholeheartedly devoted himself to cultivating the rock of 10,000 miles. His eyes rippled with golden light as the golden talisman runes on his body illuminated the surroundings and merged with his body. He was like a human-shaped rock, flying against the wind as he flapped his wings and soared into the sky. As if it was because of Du Xiaofu's influence, this area became more and more violent. The astral winds intensified and spatial turbulence surged. Countless pitch-black light blades densely covered the space. It was abnormally dangerous, with danger lurking everywhere. Du Xiaofu was wholeheartedly devoted himself to it. Like a bolt of golden lightning, he shuttled through this chaotic space. If an expert from the golden-winged Great Pong Bird clan was here, he would definitely be stunned. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was like a real rock. He flapped his wings and soared into the astral winds, avoiding the countless pitch-black light blades. There seemed to be a mysterious force in the surroundings that could overlap with space and merge with Du Xiaofu's body. Du Xiaofu was so fast that he could pierce through the void. His speed was unparalleled. Rock of 10,000 miles. At a certain moment, Du Xiaofu's shout pierced through the clouds and cracked rocks. It resounded through the void. His body was wrapped in golden light as he rushed towards the center of the most violent astral wind storm. From afar, it was like a real rock flapping its wings. It was filled with a heart-palpitating, domineering aura. Swoosh, swoosh. Du Xiaofu's body swept through the center of the astral wind in the myriad of spatial turbulence. It seemed as fast as lightning, and his movements were domineering and elegant. But in reality, it was filled with danger. Even the slightest mistake could cause a huge difference. Any small mistake would be enough to cause him to fall deep into the violent space turbulence. Du Xiaofu's figure rushed out of the most violent astral wind and spatial turbulence. The violent astral wind behind him swept behind him for a moment. At the same time, the golden talisman engravings on Du Xiaofu's body gradually converged. In the end, they mysteriously converged into his skin and quietly disappeared without a trace. This was still within the storm turbulence vortex. In fact, Du Xiaofu was even deeper than before. However, Du Xiaofu was standing in the middle of it. At this moment, he was much more relaxed. Golden light burst forth from his eyes, and a vast aura was slowly converging. Huff! A mouthful of turbid air was exhaled from his throat. Du Xiaofu's resolute and determined face also revealed a smile. 10,000 miles. I've made some progress. Feeling the speed and power just now, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but smile. It had only been half a month. He didn't expect that he would really make some progress with 10,000 miles. According to Du Xiaofu's estimation, when he reached the Nirvana stage of the Nirvana stage, he was already able to borrow the power of space. Compared to when he was a Nirvana Martial Venerable, it was already a world of difference. Now that he was cultivating 10,000 miles, his speed had increased by a lot. Compared to before, it was at least twice as fast. Double the speed didn't seem like much, but in fact, it was already frightening enough. If he was to fight with an opponent with double the speed, under the same level of strength, the opponent would almost certainly die. Even if the opponent was more tyrannical, with double the speed, it was equivalent to having enough protection to escape. How shocking was that? Old man Xingguang, old man in thunder, just you wait. The day I return to the central region will be the day I take revenge. Slowly clenching his hands into fists, Du Xiaofu felt the power in his body. His face was solemn, revealing a sharp killing intent. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt that with his strength and methods, he could easily kill a cultivator of the initial domain with no problem. Now that he had stepped into the Nirvana stage, it was time to return to the central region and take revenge. As for the extent of his current strength, Du Xiaofu didn't know whether he could contend with an initial domain stage powerhouse. He would only know after trying. At the initial domain stage, although there was only a thin line between the initial domain stage and the initial domain stage, the difference between the two was difficult to fill. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes as he stared into the depths of the chaotic space. This place was unusual. Cultivating the rock soaring 10,000 miles would yield twice the results with half the effort. In the depths of the chaotic space, the astral winds and spatial turbulence were clearly even more violent. If I go deeper, I should be able to make some progress by cultivating rock soaring 10,000 miles, but I'm afraid that the deeper I go, the more dangerous it will be. At that time, it will be difficult to resist the astral wind and spatial turbulence. Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and muttered softly. In the depths of the chaotic space, it was more chaotic and violent. If he went deeper, with his physical body, if he was not careful, he would be torn to pieces. Forget it, it's almost time. I should go back. After pondering for a while, Du Xiaofu decisively stopped the idea of continuing to take risks. Therefore, after packing up, his body was wrapped in golden light, and he activated rock soaring 10,000 miles, flying out of the storm turbulence vortex. Outside the storm turbulence vortex, the surrounding thousands of miles was dead silent, like a land of death. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu's figure streaked across the sky, preparing to return to the central continent after attending the ceremony in the golden-winged rock clan. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's figure stopped in mid-air. He released his mind and spied in all directions. After 2 breaths, he frowned slightly and muttered softly, "Could it be that I sensed wrongly?" Boom! However, the moment Du Xiaofu's voice fell, his body suddenly trembled, and his gaze suddenly changed greatly. At the same time, from all directions, waves of aura suddenly surged out, and in an instant, they had already arrived. That terrifying aura made Du Xiaofu's hair stand on end, even with his current cultivation strength. Silently, dozens of figures had already appeared in the surroundings. The aura fluctuations on those figures carried demonic chi, and some carried lightning. Their clothes were rather strange, and most of them wore robes that covered their faces, revealing only their flickering eyes. However, any one of these people was incomparably powerful, at least at the level of primordial martial venerable. On the left, the auras of the 4 leaders were even more powerful and vast. The 4 of them floated in midair, and the void around them distorted. It was obvious that the 4 of them had reached the martial domain realm. When Du Xiaofu saw one of the 4, his body immediately trembled, and a sharp golden light surged out of his eyes. Devil religion! Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth and said. Among the 4 of them, there was a yellow-robed old man. Even if he turned into ashes, Du Xiaofu would not recognize him. The yellow-robed old man was the Thunder old man who had pretended to be the fifth martial uncle, GMO. He had also gone to the Seven-Star Hall twice and killed many disciples of the Seven-Star Hall. Phew! Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and looked around. There were dozens of powerful martial venerables, 9-star spiritual talisman masters, and 4 domain realm experts. It seemed that the devil religion was fully prepared to find him this time. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu was secretly puzzled. The aura that made his hair stand on end just now had disappeared in an instant. You can really escape, but you still can't escape from the palm of my sect. Today, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. The Thunder old man said as he looked at Du Xiaofu with a faint lightning glow in his eyes. There was a cold smile on his face. It seems that you are well prepared. Du Xiaofu looked at the Thunder old man and said coldly, I know that your cultivation seems to have improved a lot in the Golden-Winged Rock Clan, but this time, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. The Thunder old man also sneered. He had searched for this brat for many years, running to several provinces. After obtaining accurate information, he had set up an ambush nearby for a long time. Finally, this brat had appeared. He could not help but feel aggrieved. Is that so? Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. His eyes swept over the Thunder old man and the other domain realm experts. Finally, he looked at the Thunder old man with an evil sneer and said, I didn't expect you to break through to the domain realm. So, this time, you won't be able to escape. Come with me obediently. Otherwise, I don't mind letting you suffer a little and make you unforgettable. The Thunder old man said faintly. He had been lucky these years. After following Shengguang Celestial Master, he had also broken through to the domain realm. At this moment, he did not put Du Xiaofu in his eyes. A brat with good escaping skills and luck, but no matter what, he couldn't escape from him again. I'm afraid that you guys are not enough. Du Xiaofu sneered disdainfully. He was a little arrogant and did not take it to heart. Reckless kid, you are indeed a little arrogant. The other 3 domain realm experts beside the Thunder old man sneered. They looked extremely cold and their bodies were fluctuating with a kind of devil chi. Chapter 1432. We don't know who will die yet. Maybe you will die soon. Du Xiaofu said with a hint of mockery. There was no need to say much about the devil religion. Once they met, it would be a battle of life and death. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation and strength, he was no longer afraid of facing the Thunder old man and the others. He could fight with all his might. Humph! The other 3 domain realm experts beside the Thunder old man frowned when they heard this. Their auras surged and distorted the space. Killing intent began to spread. This kid is still useful. Xiahou Fenglei's 3000 Thunder Soul Seed is on him. We must capture him alive. The Thunder old man was not too angry. Anyway, this kid could not escape today. As long as he captured this kid, it would be a great merit. Arrogant kid. Let's make him suffer a fate worse than death. A middle-aged man frowned when he heard this. He stepped out with an emotionless face. When he looked at Du Xiaofu, his killing intent dissipated a little, but it was extremely gloomy and cold. Come here and die. Du Xiaofu waved his purple sleeves and pointed at the middle-aged man. His eyes were clear and domineering, as if he was deliberately provoking him. You will suffer a fate worse than death. The middle-aged man was angry. He spat out these cold words. A terrifying aura erupted from his body. Rune light shot up into the sky. His aura collapsed the space and cracked the earth. When the middle-aged man finished speaking, he had already appeared in front of Du Xiaofu like a ghost. His initial domain aura surged. He stretched out his hand, distorted the space, and slapped at Du Xiaofu. Boom! This slap was extraordinarily powerful. It was accompanied by runes and demonic aura. It covered a large area and enveloped Du Xiaofu. It wanted to suppress Du Xiaofu directly. However, it was also at this moment that the middle-aged man seemed to have sensed something. When he slammed down with his palm, the vast power seemed to have been blocked by something in the space, and he was unable to get close to Du Xiaofu. On the contrary, an invisible force swept out from the purple-robed young man's body, causing the depths of his soul to tremble for no reason. Something's not right. That kid is hiding his cultivation. The middle-aged man immediately realized that something was wrong. His palms struck mist, and the purple-robed young man's figure had already disappeared. He didn't even know how Du Xiaofu had managed to escape, and his speed was so fast that he didn't even notice it. The middle-aged man realized that something was wrong, but it was too late. Just as his expression changed drastically, before he could even react, a fist slammed into his chest in an instant. That fist was wrapped in resplendent golden runes. Qila. It was Du Xiaofu's fist. Wherever the golden fist passed, it destroyed everything. The demonic runes in front of the middle-aged man were all shattered, and his flesh was torn apart, causing blood to splatter everywhere. Bang! The middle-aged man's chest was directly penetrated, and blood spurted high into the air. Immediately after, the middle-aged man's body crumbled inch by inch under the shocked gazes of the surrounding people. His spirit was completely destroyed. Although Du Xiaofu hadn't used his full strength in this punch, he had already used his full strength. He had already used his absolute killing intent, so he wouldn't hold back in the slightest. Du Xiaofu's punch also contained the tyrannical fistway and several superpowers. Although it seemed ordinary, it was actually terrifying. Half a month ago, Du Xiaofu hadn't even used his full strength when facing Jialo Jueyu's punch when the great sovereign had undergone nirvana. The middle-aged man from the devil religion was only at the initial domain realm. Compared to Jialo Jueyu, who had undergone nirvana and was still a pure-blooded great golden-winged rock, he was far from being a match for Du Xiaofu. Rumble. In an instant, the space trembled and rumbled. The martial domain realm middle-aged man from the devil religion had already suffered a fatal blow. His body crumbled inch by inch, and a bloody mist filled the air. The numerous experts from the devil religion had not expected the outcome to be like this. A martial domain realm expert had been killed in a single move. You. Could it be that you have also broken through to the martial domain realm? At this moment, the person who was the most shocked was the enlightening old man. He had never expected that the brat who had escaped from the Seven Stars Hall in the central region, who was at most a perfect transcendent martial honorable, would have already stepped into the domain realm. His companion was in the domain realm, but he had been killed in a single move. If he wanted to kill a domain realm expert in a single move, it was enough to prove that the kid's cultivation had reached the domain realm. The Thunder old man knew that his cultivation was definitely not much stronger than the middle-aged man who had just been killed. The domain realm? I disdain to step into it. You are not qualified to understand my path. Du Xiaofu looked at the Thunder old man. His clear eyes began to emit a golden light, and a chilling killing intent began to surge out. You are not in the domain realm. Could it be? Could it be that you are a supreme nirvana realm expert? The Thunder old man suddenly seemed to have thought of something. Facing Du Xiaofu, who was releasing a chilling killing intent, he immediately retreated quickly. The Thunder old man was extremely shocked. A supreme nirvana realm expert was a level that he could only look at but not reach. Congratulations, you were right. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. He stepped out and went straight to the Thunder old man. He wanted to kill the Thunder old man and ask about the whereabouts of his master, the revered artifact, and the devil religion. Lord Nine Demon Emperor, please act quickly. Du Xiaofu is a supreme nirvana realm expert. We can't deal with him. Suddenly, the Thunder old man raised his head and looked at the sky. He began to cry for help without hesitation. Hearing the Thunder old man's shrill scream, Du Xiaofu was stunned and immediately stopped. He was at a loss. The devil religion seemed to have experts hidden here. Since the Thunder old man called him Lord, it proved that the person's identity was definitely not ordinary in the devil religion. A bunch of trash. Fortunately, I came personally. Otherwise, I'm afraid you will fail again. An indifferent voice slowly sounded in the air. Then, devil chi suddenly surged in the air. The space seemed to be torn apart, and a huge giant figure slowly stepped out and floated in the air. As the giant figure appeared, the world began to tremble violently. Invisibly, The energy of heaven and earth in the world gathered toward the huge figure. Not only that, a strange, invisible force began to seep out of the world. It seemed to be able to devour people's Xin Qi and primordial spirit. That strange force was pervasive. It's him. It's him. As soon as the figure appeared, Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly trembled violently. The aura that made Du Xiaofu's hair stand on end just now appeared again. The aura that made his hair stand on end just now had come from this person. That terrifying aura could make the energy of heaven and earth chaotic. It was shocking. The Xin Qi in Du Xiaofu's body surged, and his body was covered with a golden brilliance. He looked up at the figure in the air, and his heart trembled. It was a huge figure that was hundreds of meters tall. It was unknown whether it was the real body or an illusory body. Devil Qi surged around the huge figure, making it look like a devil sovereign. The huge figure was covered with black devil light. His eyes were pitch black and deep like black holes. He looked down at the sky, as if a devil sovereign from the devil domain had come into being. The energy of heaven and earth in the surroundings was chaotic because of his appearance and gathered toward him. Although the huge figure was huge, it looked very blurry as it stood in the air. It was filled with ancient devil Qi that had traveled through time and space. Lord Nine Demon Emperor, that kid has reached the supreme nirvana realm. Lord Nine Demon Emperor, please take action. When the Thunder Old Man saw the huge figure, his eyes lit up with joy. He was not displeased that the former had called him a piece of trash. It was as if the huge figure had called him a piece of trash. The former and the remaining 2 domain realm experts of the Devil Clan bowed their heads and saluted. They did not even dare to look at the huge figure in the air. The huge figure ignored the Thunder Old Man and looked down at Du Xiaofu with his pitch-black eyes. He said softly, "You are indeed a supreme nirvana realm expert. You even have several types of spiritual thunder in your body. How enviable. However, it's all over now. Come with me. You have your home. What if I don't go with you?" Du Xiaofu suppressed the trembling in his heart. At this moment, his primordial spirit in the form of a red-bone horse monkey was sitting cross-legged on the 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian in his mind. He was releasing pressure to resist the pressure from the huge figure. He looked at the huge figure wrapped in devil Qi and smiled coldly. "You have some strength and capital, but you are still too weak. Come with me. Why are you so stubborn?" The huge figure spoke. His voice was accompanied by a surge of ink-colored devil Qi. The sound wave was not loud, but it sounded like thunder in Du Xiaofu's ears. That was especially true of the gigantic figure's eyes. At this moment, a strange black ripple spread out. Layers of ripples shook the void and enveloped Du Xiaofu. At this moment, the people around him were not affected at all, but Du Xiaofu was in danger. The voice could make Du Xiaofu dizzy. The demonic eyes contained a kind of demonic power that could destroy one's mind. Eowao. At this moment, within Du Xiaofu's Naiwan Palace, the red-bone horse monkey's primordial spirit that was sitting cross-legged on the 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian roared. A wave of misty primal chaos Qi accompanied by several types of domineering spiritual thunder aura swept out, waking Du Xiaofu up. Who? Du Xiaofu immediately woke up, unaffected by the voice and the demonic eyes. At this moment, the huge figure in the air revealed a hint of doubt in its deep, pitch-black demonic eyes. "If you want to compete in numbers, then let's compete in numbers," Du Xiaofu said. Suddenly, a hand seal condensed, and a misty light shot out from between his brows. The space fluctuated, and a boundless ancient aura descended. It was the desolate ancient space. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Following the appearance of the ancient desolate space, numerous figures immediately flew out from the spatial exit that was rippling with fluctuations. Rumble. Waves of domineering and ferocious aura swept out in all directions. It was as if a hurricane had swept away the clouds as it suddenly exploded. Chapter 1433. How dare you touch my great golden-winged rock clan? I don't care what devil religion you are from. As the silhouettes swept through the air, golden light suddenly burst forth for tens of thousands of feet. A loud roar like thunder resounded in all directions. An old figure appeared and directly pounced on the huge demonic figure in midair. The one who pounced at the devil chief figure in the air was a rather tall elder. His hair was light gold, and his silver gold robe fluttered in the wind. A domineering pressure immediately emanated from his body. He was the great elder of the Great Golden-Winged Rock clan. Great Golden-Winged Rock. As the great elder pounced, golden light erupted. The enormous devil chief figure's demonic eyes immediately changed. "How dare you touch my Great Golden-Winged Rock clan? Are you tired of living?" At the same time, rays of golden light erupted. One by one, the Great Golden-Winged Rock clan experts pounced forward. They were like blazing suns rising in an instant. Golden light instantly covered the entire sky. The second elder, third elder, fourth elder Jialo Yi, fifth elder Jialo Yuan-Tu, Great Protector Jialo Huanyu, as well as Jialo Jueyu, Jialo Kaling, Jialo Jueyo, Jialo Juekong, and the other young experts of the Great Golden-Winged Peng clan all appeared. "Retreat, quickly." In just an instant, the enormous figure wrapped in devil chi shouted and ordered the devil religion experts to retreat immediately. However, it was all too late. The experts of the devil religion, who had thought that victory was in their grasp, suddenly felt their hearts palpitate when they saw Du Xiaofu kill the middle-aged martial domain realm expert with a single move. However, when the nine-demon emperor appeared, their confidence surged again. They thought that Du Xiaofu would not be able to escape today. These people of the devil religion had never imagined that Du Xiaofu would suddenly conjure so many great golden-winged rock clan experts as if by magic. These experts of the devil religion did not even have time to react before they were immediately surrounded and killed by the experts of the golden-winged great rocks. Even the Een Thunder Old Man and the other two martial domain realm experts were unable to escape the encirclement of the fourth elder Jialo Yuan, the fifth elder Jialo Yuan-Tu, and the other golden-winged great rocks. They were not on the same level. The golden light was dazzling, and the image of the golden-winged Peng bird screeched in the air. The air was filled with dazzling symbols and golden light. Rumble. Terrifying energy surged wildly, wanting to tear the sky apart. It was incomparably crazy, and a large area of the ground below was destroyed. With just a single touch, those experts from the devil religion couldn't even withstand a single blow and died. How could these honorable beings of the devil religion be a match for the powerful beings of the golden-winged great rocks? Furthermore, there were still the first elder, second elder, and third elder who had appeared right now. However, the second elder and the third elder didn't seem to be interested in attacking ordinary members of the devil religion. Instead, they followed behind the first elder and directly charged towards the figure wrapped in a huge demonic aura in the air. In an instant, the golden symbols in the sky soared into the sky, and terrifying waves of air swept out. One could clearly see waves of golden ripples, which were vast and undulating like a tsunami, sweeping out in all directions. In the sky, demonic aura also surged, revealing the shadow of the demon domain. It was as if a demon lord had appeared. The ninth demon emperor was actually fighting the three top elders of the golden-winged great rocks by himself. It was enough to show how terrifying his strength was. Chila, a martial domain realm expert, directly took out a powerful demonic hammer. With a monstrous demonic aura, it surged towards Jialo Jueyu. However, the martial domain realm expert miscalculated. His demonic hammer was directly knocked down by Jialo Jueyu's sweep of his hand. With a wave of his hand, Jialo Jueyu swept away the surging demonic aura. Then, like a ghost, he appeared in front of the martial domain realm expert. With a claw, he distorted the void in all directions, and golden light erupted. Great rocks shattering chaos. The demonic sect's martial domain realm expert let out a blood-curdling scream. His neck had been torn apart by Jialo Jueyu, and a large bloody hole appeared in his neck. In the end, even his head had been crushed by Jialo Jueyu's claw. "You dare to come to the gate of the golden-winged great rocks with such strength? Die!" The fifth elder Jialo Yuan-Tu shouted. His voice shook the void. With a slap of his hand, layers of golden talismans swept out and directly annihilated the martial domain realm expert of the devil religion. Fourth elder, leave that one alive. Du Xiaofu said. At this moment, the fourth elder Jialo Yi stared directly at the Thunder Old Man. Golden light erupted, and his speed was too fast. He appeared in front of the Thunder Old Man, and his claw distorted the void. He was not afraid of the lightning on the Thunder Old Man's body at all. The claw grasped the Thunder Old Man's neck, and in the next moment, his head and neck would be separated. At this moment, the Thunder Old Man was in despair and fear. In front of the golden-winged great rocks, he did not even have the chance to self-destruct. The vast power distorted the void and made him tremble in fear. At this moment, the Thunder Old Man realized how terrifying the golden-winged great rocks were. Just as the Thunder Old Man felt that his neck was about to be cut in two, the force suddenly disappeared. But in the next moment, a restriction was placed on the Thunder Old Man's body. He could not resist at all, and was like an ant. Rumble. The surrounding space rumbled, and the scene was very shocking. This time, all the martial paragons of the devil religion were stunned. They could not resist the attacks of the golden-winged great rocks and were killed on the spot. Golden-winged great rocks, the day my devil religion appears will be the day your race disappears. In the air, a huge demonic chi wrapped around the body, and black demonic clouds shrouded the surroundings. The pitch-black demonic runes were soaring, and the pitch-black demonic eyes were furious. The Nine-Demon Emperor definitely did not expect that the golden-winged great rocks would appear immediately beside Du Xiaofu. This time, it was very important to capture Du Xiaofu. Because of the golden-winged great rocks, although the devil religion did not want to make a move in the golden-winged great rocks territory, they were still afraid that the golden-winged great rocks were nearby. Therefore, the Nine-Demon Emperor made a trip personally to avoid any mistakes. But who would have thought that just as he was about to succeed, all the golden-winged great rocks experts suddenly appeared beside Du Xiaofu? The Nine-Demon Emperor naturally did not know that most of the golden-winged great rocks experts were refining their bodies with divine thunder in the purple thunder profound cauldron that Du Xiaofu had placed in the desolate ancient space. When the Nine-Demon Emperor appeared, Du Xiaofu had already notified all the golden-winged great rocks experts who had finished refining their bodies with divine thunder in the purple thunder profound cauldron. Therefore, the Great Elder, Second Elder, Third Elder, Jialo Kaling, Jialo Jueyu, and the others rushed out the moment they arrived in the desolate ancient space. Daring to attack the golden-winged great rocks young clan leader outside their territory was simply the greatest provocation to the golden-winged great rocks clan. As golden-winged great rocks disciples, how could they be polite? Where do you think you're going? High in the sky. After the Nine-Demon Emperor roared, he immediately retreated. However, the Great Elder roared and immediately chased after him. Chase. The Second Elder and Third Elder did not linger either. The three of them turned into three golden bolts of lightning and instantly disappeared in the sky. This battle came quickly and ended even faster. In less than a minute, dozens of devil religions supremacies were slaughtered. Of the four devil religions martial domain realm cultivators, other than the Thunder Elder who was restrained and the one who Du Xiaofu killed directly, the other two were killed so badly that their primordial spirits and meridian spirits did not even show up. The difference in strength was too great. This was equivalent to a massacre. Many golden-winged great rocks disciples did not even have the chance to attack. As for Gue Che, Qin Imo, Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Divine Ape King, and the others, they all stood behind Du Xiaofu calmly. Many golden-winged great rocks disciples did not have the chance to attack. Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King and the others did not have the chance to intervene. They just watched for a while. However, the Thunder Elder, who was restrained, had a dead look in his eyes. Although he had been restricted, the Thunder Old Man could clearly see everything that was happening in front of him. He could never have imagined such an outcome. This guy is restrained. He's only at the early domain realm. Should we cripple his cultivation first? The Fourth Elder came to Du Xiaofu's side and threw the Thunder Elder, who was restrained, to Du Xiaofu's side. There's no need to cripple him for now. I still have some use for him. Du Xiaofu kicked the Thunder Elder, who was restrained. He did not hold back. A few of the Thunder Elder's ribs were probably broken by Du Xiaofu's kick. The Thunder Elder's voice was restrained. He could not even scream. Only his eyes were filled with despair. It seemed that he was in so much pain that he was crying. Is this the devil religion that's causing trouble for you? Jalo Kaling came to Du Xiaofu's side. Her bright eyes were filled with worry. She felt that the devil religion's power was not weak. What will come will come, Du Xiaofu said softly. He did not expect the devil religion to find the golden-winged great rocks. However, he was not the same as before. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Moments later, 3 golden silhouettes descended from the sky. They were none other than the first elder, second elder, and third elder who had chased after Huang Xiaolong. Elders, how is it? Jalo Kaling asked the 3 elders. That person is very strong. The great elder only said a few simple words. His eyes were filled with golden light, and no other emotions could be seen. Hearing the great elder's words, Du Xiaofu's heart trembled. For the great elder to say that the person was very strong, it was enough to show how terrifying the 9th demon emperor's strength was. The great elder, second elder, and third elder were unable to stop the 9th demon emperor even after joining forces. This was enough to prove everything. Du Xiaofu pondered. It seemed that the devil religion had spent a lot of effort to deal with him. If it were not for the great elder and the others in the purple lightning profound cauldron, he would have been in deep trouble. Let's return to the clan first, the great elder said to everyone. Little Falcon carried the Thunder Elder and followed behind Du Xiaofu. There was also a group of golden-winged great rocks. Chapter 1434. 9 Demon Emperors, could it be the same one? Along the way, Du Xiaofu was still in deep thought. The 9 demon monarch from the devil cult seemed to have appeared in the sealed ancient land in Shang province before. He wondered if the two were the same person. In the golden-winged Great Pong clan, Du Xiaofu first met with the great elder and the others after returning to the clan. He told them about the devil religion's attack. The devil religion is restless. It seems like they are plotting something. Jalo Changtian frowned. Some information about the devil religion was recorded in the golden-winged Great Pong clan. One of them is very strong. It might be a demon emperor, the great elder said. He had fought with the devil religion's expert before and knew how strong he was. That person seems to be called the 9 demon emperors, Du Xiaofu said. He had heard the identity of the devil religion's expert from the enlightening old man. It really is a demon emperor. I didn't expect the devil religion's demon emperor to have revived. Hearing this, the second elder's expression changed. His eyes overflowed with golden light as he said, if I had known earlier, I would have stopped that demon emperor even if I had to pay a price. The revival of a demon emperor is no small matter. I hope not all the demon emperors have revived, otherwise the great calamity will begin. The third elder frowned, his eyes narrowing. Foster father, elders, how strong are those demon emperors? Du Xiaofu asked Jalo Changtian and the other elders. Jalo Changtian smiled wryly. He turned to Du Xiaofu and said, Rumor has it that during the great tribulation of heaven and earth, the great tribulation of heaven and earth shook violently. Countless lives were plunged into chaos, and the great tribulation of heaven and earth fell. But in the end, a mysterious supreme expert and the dragon god arrived and stopped the great tribulation of heaven and earth. The supreme expert and the dragon god sealed the entire battlefield into the Kyushu Seal ancient land, and left behind 9 divine lightning cauldrons to suppress the evil spirits on the battlefield, including a demon god. After a brief pause, Jalo Changtian continued to speak to Du Xiaofu. The devil emperor was the strongest existence by the archdevil god's side. It is said that the archdevil god had 9 devil emperors by his side, and all of them possessed monstrous strength. Many of the strongest experts in this world had fallen in their hands. It is said that the archdevil god was sealed, and the 9 devil emperors relied on the archdevil god to seal themselves in this world. It seems that those demon emperors have already recovered. Hopefully, not all the demon emperors have recovered. The 9 demon emperors should be the weakest one among the 9 demon emperors. How strong is the devil religion? Du Xiaofu's heart trembled. If the 9 demon emperors were the weakest among the 9 demon emperors, then how strong were the other 8 demon emperors? There was also the so-called archdevil god. Even the owner of the purple lightning profound cauldron and the dragon god failed to kill him, only sealing him. How strong was he? However, those experts of the devil religion wouldn't dare to come out casually. There are still many experts in this world. If the devil religion didn't fear them, they wouldn't have remained dormant for so long. Jialo Changtian looked at Du Xiaofu with a solemn expression, thinking that he was worried about the devil religion's experts. He continued, "This time, the devil religion actually sent a devil emperor here. I'm afraid that my golden-winged Great Peng Bird clan is in the vicinity. You must have something that they desperately need." The devil religion needs spiritual lightning. They seem to be searching for spiritual lightning. Du Xiaofu didn't conceal anything. The reason why the lightning old man and the others attacked his master was because of the 3,000 thunder lightning. As for the devil religion's experts, Du Xiaofu still remembered that when the 9 demon emperors appeared in Shang province's sealed ancient lands, an expert called Xiao also appeared and scared the 9 demon emperors away. From this, it could be seen that the devil religion's experts couldn't just appear in this world casually. Spiritual lightning. Hearing that, Jialo Changtian, the first elder, and the others all started to ponder. Du Xiaofu then left. Jialo Changtian reminded him that tomorrow was the day of the golden-winged Great Peng Bird clan's young patriarch ceremony, so he couldn't be late. After returning to his courtyard, Du Xiaofu left a few words with the Phantom Chariot, Zither Devil, and Phantom Tiger King, then went into his room. Now that the purple lightning profound cauldron was exposed, Du Xiaofu didn't place any more seals in the room and directly brought the lightning old man into the ancient, desolate space. Inside the desolate country, the space rippled and the lightning old man was thrown to the ground. His yellow robe was tattered and his eyes were filled with fear. Chi! Several runes flew out from Du Xiaofu's fingertips and landed on the lightning old man's body, releasing the seal on his voice. He didn't hide the coldness in his eyes as he asked, "Speak. Where is my master now?" With the 3,000 thunder lightning's soul seed in his mind, Du Xiaofu knew that his master was at least still alive. "Kiki, brat, there's a time when you have to beg me." The lightning old man's fear turned into anger. He laughed sinisterly and said, "Let me go, or your master Xiahou Fenglei will die." "It's fine if you don't tell me. Try my soul-searching technique," Du Xiaofu said coldly. He did not say anything else. Suddenly, a strange seal was formed in his hand. Light surged on his fingers as they bent into a claw. Then, they landed on the top of the lightning old man's head with a resplendent symbol. A vast yuan spirit pressure descended. The lightning old man wanted to struggle, but he couldn't move at all because of the seal. As the claw landed, the lightning old man's eyes began to turn white and his body began to twitch. Ah! In just a few moments, the lightning old man began to scream. His pupils dilated and white foam flowed out of his mouth as if he was suffering the worst torture. Huff! By the time Du Xiaofu withdrew the claw, almost an hour had passed. At this moment, the lightning old man was on the verge of death. Even his 7 orifices began to bleed. Du Xiaofu had just used the soul-searching technique from the Heavenly Spirit Record. It was very similar to the soul-searching technique from the Hahuan school, but it was much more profound and powerful than the Hahuan school's soul-searching technique. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation, especially the strength of his yuan spirit, it wasn't difficult for him to search for the lightning old man's yuan spirit. From the soul-searching technique, Du Xiaofu learned that his master, the weapon sovereign, seemed to be imprisoned in a branch of the devil religion. The lightning old man had only recently broken through to the martial domain. He was only a deputy envoy and not an envoy, so he didn't know the whereabouts of the branch. Du Xiaofu learned that the devil religion had been searching for spiritual thunder and seemed to have found a lot. However, the lightning old man didn't know the ultimate purpose of the devil religion search for devil thunder. Outside the golden-winged rocks, the 9th demon emperor who had appeared in the sealed ancient land of Shangzhou was a demon emperor. In the devil religion, there were a total of 108 demon envoys and even more deputy demon envoys. Among the 108 demon envoys, the 5 great demon envoys were the earth demon envoys, the fire demon envoys, the ice demon envoys, the wind demon envoys, and the thunder demon envoys. It was said that their strength was only below the demon emperor. There were 9 demon emperors in the devil religion. All of them were still in seclusion to recover. Only the 9th demon emperor had recovered the fastest. In the sealed ancient land of Shangzhou, those evil spirits had used the Devil Gate. Their purpose was to lure all the living creatures in Shangzhou into the Devil Gate and provide the blood qi for the demon emperor to recover. It was the same in the other provinces. The Devil Gate was open to provide the blood qi for the demon emperor to recover. Du Xiaofu learned this information from the enlightening old man's Yuan spirit by using the soul-searching technique. Du Xiaofu was shocked. The devil religion was so huge and powerful. Phew! Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and his expression turned serious. After a while, he calmed down the shock in his heart. Although the soul-searching technique didn't get much useful information about the devil religion from the enlightening old man, Du Xiaofu had other gains. In the enlightening old man's Yuan spirit, Du Xiaofu found 2 divine abilities of the enlightening old man. One of them was the lightning divine ability. However, for Du Xiaofu, who had the lightning martial vein and several types of spirit thunder soul seeds, it wasn't very useful. However, he could still study it and gain some benefits from the lightning divine ability. The enlightening old man's other disguised divine ability was called the disguised divine art. Du Xiaofu was very tempted. Du Xiaofu still remembered that the enlightening old man had disguised himself as his 5th martial uncle, GMO. Although the disguised divine art wasn't a peerless divine ability, it was often very useful in some special situations. Without getting much information about the devil religion, Du Xiaofu broke the seal on the enlightening old man's Qinkuan bag and searched it. He also got a few good Dao artifacts and some elixirs. As for the other items, they were also quite valuable. Then, he threw the enlightening old man aside. Du Xiaofu didn't pay attention to him. Instead, he was interested in the disguised divine art and began to study it. If he could master the disguised divine art, it would definitely be useful in the future. The next day, the entire golden-winged rock clan was very lively and jubilant. Under the guidance of a golden-winged great Pongbird clan's elder, Du Xiaofu walked through many ceremonial procedures. In the end, he sat upright on the left side of the main hall, below his adoptive father, Jialo Changtian. On the right side were the Great Elder, Second Elder, Third Elder, and other experts. Young clan leader, Jialo Jueyu, and the other leaders of the younger generation of the Golden-Winged Rock clan bowed respectfully. This time, they had been tempered by the divine lightning in the divine lightning cauldron and strengthened their bloodlines. Some had even broken through directly. They were the most aware and excited about the benefits they had received. The young clan leader of the Golden-Winged Rock clan, the Hall Master, is too awesome. Illusion Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and the others looked at each other and smiled. The Hall Master they followed was the young clan leader of the Golden-Winged Rock clan. This time, they had obtained an ancient inheritance, which was a great opportunity. Then, the Golden-Winged Rock clan's members also received the divine lightning to strengthen their bloodlines. It was like adding wings to a tiger. Chapter 1435. Back then, each and every one of them had been threatened to submit. At this moment, even if someone were to chase them away, they would definitely not leave. "We've followed the right palace, Lord, this time." Fantasy Tiger King chuckled. He had felt sullen back then, but now he was rejoicing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to obtain so many opportunities. You naturally have your reasons for wanting to go back to the central continent to deal with your own matters. However, now that the devil religion has its eyes on you, it'll be easier for them to make their move in the central continent. Jueyu, Kailing, and the others have been tempered by the divine thunder, and some time ago, they were baptized by the supreme thunderstorm. They need some time to cultivate in seclusion. Therefore, the clan has decided that when you go back, the 5th Elder and the 4th Elder will accompany you to the central continent. Jialo Changtian spoke to Du Xiaofu in the ancient golden courtyard at dusk. Won't that be too much trouble for the 4th Elder and the 5th Elder? Du Xiaofu was a little surprised. What kind of existence were the 4th Elder and the 5th Elder? Following him to the central continent was unusual. This is what the 4th Elder and the 5th Elder requested. Besides, you're now the young clan leader of the Golden-Winged Rock clan. In the future, the clan will rely on you to lead. Jueyu, 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 and the others will also need your guidance. Jialo Changtian smiled and patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Looking up at the setting sun, he said, "We're old. In the future, the clan will rely on the younger generation. Although you're only my adopted son, in my heart, you're now my flesh and blood. Remember, if you encounter any difficulties in the central continent that the fourth elder and the fifth elder can't solve, immediately inform the clan. Behind you is the entire golden-winged rock clan." Father, Du Xiaofu wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say. His heart felt warm. There's no need to say more. Go back and prepare. You'll go back tomorrow. I don't know when you'll be able to come back. Your path is very wide. The clan won't give you any restrictions, but will always stand firmly behind you. Jialo Changtian looked at Du Xiaofu and continued, "You seem to have a clan in the Central Plains. There are several treasure vaults in your clan. They contain Dao artifacts, magic artifacts, martial skills, and so on. Some of these treasures are of little use to my clan, but they are precious treasures to the human race. Go look for them. If you find something suitable, take it with you." "All right." Du Xiaofu nodded. He didn't stand on ceremony, and there was no need to stand on ceremony. After a short moment, Du Xiaofu left. He first went to a few treasure vaults of the clan, and he searched without restraint before returning to the courtyard at the waist of the mountain with satisfaction. After returning to the mountainside courtyard, Du Xiaofu entered the desolate ancient space again. No one knew what he was doing, but he only came out the next morning. In the desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu had already stayed there for dozens of hours. Early in the morning, outside the golden-winged Great Peng clan, a group of dozens of figures flew out. Their auras were restrained, and the void was distorted. The group that came out of the golden-winged Great Peng clan was Du Xiaofu, 4th Elder Jialo Yuan-2, 5th Elder Jialo Yuan-2, Guqin Devil, Gui Che, and the others. "Hall Master, we'll go back first. After reporting our safety, we'll go to the Central Plains to look for you." Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Littling Ying, and the others said. They had been out for a long time and needed to return to their clans to report their safety. In their respective clans, they were the best of the best among their peers. Without any news, their clans must be very worried. "This is a voice transmission jade slip. If there's anything, you can crush it to send a message. Maybe I'll have something to tell you." Du Xiaofu sent dozens of flowing lights to Gui Che, Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Littling Ying, Divine Ape King, and the others. They were jade slips overflowing with mysterious runes and flowing lights. Du Xiaofu had refined them last night in the desolate ancient space according to the records in the Heavenly Spirit Record. Du Xiaofu naturally had no reason to stop Gui Che, Fantasy Tiger King, and the others from going back to report their safety. After all, they were not slow. But this time, they were forced to return to the Central Plains. There was still the Divine Light Court to deal with, so Du Xiaofu left Gui Che and the others a voice transmission jade slip in case they needed it. Then Du Xiaofu said to Divine Ape King, Fire Dragon King, and the others, "Find the Purple Dragon Emperor as soon as possible and tell her that I've escaped and returned to the Central Plains." "Yes." Divine Ape King, Fire Dragon King, and the others nodded in response. "Take care, Hall Master," Gui Che said, his blood-red eyes rippling. Then he left with Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Littling Ying, and Divine Ape King. One figure after another left. 4th Elder Jialo Yuan and 5th Elder Jialo Yuan-2 were somewhat moved. Phew. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Given enough time, the Phantom Chariot, the Phantom Tiger King, the Savage Bear King, Little Ying, and the others would be enough to change the current situation in the Beast region. He'd also have a powerful ally by his side. He was one step closer to his goal of creating a powerful clan. Are we returning to the Central Plains now? Shangguan Xixian, the Zither demon, looked at Du Xiaofu. His robes were whiter than snow. Beneath his thick eyebrows, his eyes glistened like spring water. His temperament was as gentle as the wind, but there was an invisible demonic aura about him. Although he hadn't obtained any ancient inheritance this time, the value of the Heavenly Spirit Record wasn't much lower than an ancient inheritance. On the other hand, the Zither demon's beast mount had also obtained an ancient inheritance and had improved significantly. Yes, let's return to the central plains. Du Xiaofu nodded. His eyes glowed faintly with golden light. After so many years, he was finally going to return. The central plains was his roots. He had to return sooner or later. It was time to settle the blood debt of the Divine Light Court. Hearing this, the Zither demon straightened his back. The corners of his rosy lips curled up. He murmured, "The central plains should be lively soon." The Zither demon had heard how Du Xiaofu had left the central plains. Now that Du Xiaofu was returning, not to mention the fact that he was the young master of the golden-winged Great Peng clan, or that he had gathered the Ghost Chariot, Fantasy Tiger King, and a large number of other Beast Kings by his side. Just his strength alone was enough to make a powerful return. Our clan has never left the Central Plains. We're too lazy to interact with other races. Therefore, our ancestors were too lazy to construct a spatial wormhole. The fourth elder, Jialo Yi, said to Du Xiaofu, "The nearest place with a spatial wormhole to the Central Plains is the Tianhuang continent. We have to go there first, then head to the Central Plains. If we travel directly to the Central Plains, we'll probably waste a lot of time." "Thank you for your hard work, elders." Du Xiaofu knew that the Beast region and the Central Plains were very far apart. They still had to cross at least the Shang region. Just how vast was a continent? Even if one reached the domain realm, it would still take a lot of time to travel through space. Moreover, there was the possibility of encountering spatial turbulence within a spatial wormhole. It was even easier to encounter spatial turbulence while traveling through space. It was also extremely dangerous and exhausting. "It's not hard at all. Us two old fellows have come out to roam the world. It's also a pleasure." The fifth elder smiled. He waved his hand, and an ancient carriage appeared in the air. It was engraved with talismans and mysterious patterns. It looked like a living creature. The carriage was several meters tall. Flames surged around it, as if there was a fiery bird flapping its wings and distorting the surrounding space. This is the Gale Fire Carriage. It's rumored to be an ancient artifact. It's not slow. It should take at most 2 days to reach the Tianhuang continent. Fifth Elder Jialo Yuantu gestured for Du Xiaofu to get on the carriage. "Thank you, Fifth Elder." Du Xiaofu sized up the Gale Fire Carriage. It was filled with an ancient aura. It was definitely a precious treasure. As for the fifth elder, although he had competed with him before, Du Xiaofu didn't take it to heart. The fifth elder didn't deliberately target him back then. After interacting with him later, Du Xiaofu felt that the fifth elder was straightforward. He had a good impression of him. This time, the fourth elder and the fifth elder also took the initiative to escort him to the Central Plains. They jumped onto the Gale Fire Carriage. It was quite spacious inside. After Du Xiaofu entered, the fourth elder and the fifth elder entered. Only then did the Zither demon and his mount enter. Then, the flames surged and the Gale Fire Carriage's aura fluctuated. It soared into the sky and disappeared immediately. Du Xiaofu didn't stay idle in the Gale Fire Carriage. After informing the fourth elder and the fifth elder, he entered the ancient desolate space. In the ancient desolate space, Du Xiaofu glanced at the Thunder old man who was lying on the ground and had regained some consciousness. Then, he fiddled with a lot of refining materials from his Chinkuan bag. At this moment, Du Xiaofu planned to refine a puppet from a living person according to the records in the Heavenly Spirit Record. Back then, his master, the Venerable Weapon, had helped him refine the cloud puppet. Du Xiaofu compared the refining methods of the two and found that they seemed to be the same. However, after careful comparison, Du Xiaofu found that the refining method of his master, the Venerable Weapon, seemed to be somewhat derived from the refining method of the Heavenly Spirit Record. There were many types of puppets. Among them, there were 2 types of puppets that were refined from human and demonic beast corpses. Puppets refined from human and demonic beast corpses were called zombie puppets. Puppets refined from human and demonic beast corpses were called human puppets or beast puppets. Using a living person to refine a puppet was naturally much better than a zombie puppet. According to the records in the Heavenly Spirit Record, using a corpse to refine a puppet would greatly reduce the strength of the puppet. After the corpse of a martial domain initial domain cultivator was refined into a puppet, it would at most have the strength of a peak martial venerable. This was the best result. Generally speaking, it was good enough to have the strength of a nirvana martial venerable. However, using a living person to refine a puppet, once the refining was successful, the strength of the puppet would be slightly higher than when the person was alive. In addition, the puppet was difficult to deal with and terrifying. However, using a living person to refine a puppet was also the most cruel. It was enough to make people's hair stand on end. If it wasn't a vicious person or the master of a blood feud, a talisman master with a weak mind wouldn't be able to successfully refine it. At the same time, the difficulty of refining a puppet from a living person was not ordinary. It was many times more difficult than refining a corpse puppet. A living person had a primordial spirit and his own will. When refining, he would resist. At this time, if the talisman master didn't have enough strength, he wouldn't be able to refine it. Chapter 1436. Moreover, when a person was in a desperate situation, knowing that he would be made into a puppet in such a cruel and painful way, he would choose to commit suicide without hesitation. He would not allow himself to be made into a puppet. At this time, a spiritual talisman master would need to have absolute strength to control it, so that the person being refined would not even have the strength to commit suicide. Having already used the spiritual searching technique, Du Xiaofu did not need the Yin Thunder Old Man to say anything. Du Xiaofu did not want to waste the martial domain realm in Thunder Old Man. It just so happened that he could be used to refine a puppet. If he could succeed, having a martial domain realm puppet by his side would definitely be a great support. However, as it was his first time refining this kind of puppet, Du Xiaofu was also somewhat nervous. After carefully recalling the steps of refining a puppet in the Heavenly Spirit Record, Du Xiaofu condensed a seal with his hands, condensing a spiritual stove talisman cauldron in front of him. A blazing aura immediately filled the air, and flames whistled. Du Xiaofu also sat cross-legged, and began to throw the refining materials he had just taken out into the spiritual stove talisman cauldron to refine them. Refining a human puppet also required a lot of materials to assist in refining weapons. A martial artist's body was already very powerful, but this was not enough. A puppet required an extremely strong body. Therefore, it required a lot of refining materials to assist in the refinement. As the young master of the golden-winged Great Peng clan, he had also plundered a lot of benefits along the way. Although these refining materials were not ordinary plants, for the current Du Xiaofu, they were naturally nothing. The flames in the spiritual stove talisman cauldron rose, and Du Xiaofu began to slowly refine the refining materials he had just thrown in. This kind of refining materials did not require too much skill and only required some consumption. For Du Xiaofu, it was not difficult at all. Originally, Du Xiaofu was still a little worried about whether he could condense a spiritual stove talisman cauldron to refine a puppet. Ever since the last nirvana of the Grand Sovereign, Du Xiaofu discovered that his spirit watchtower no longer had a meridian soul. After the meridian soul and primordial spirit merged into one, his primordial spirit became the body of a red-bone horse monkey. What surprised Du Xiaofu the most was that as the meridian soul and the primordial spirit merged into one, the distinction between a talisman master and a martial artist also merged into one. This made Du Xiaofu unable to distinguish whether he was a martial artist or a spiritual talisman master after the nirvana of the Great Sovereign. Afterwards, Du Xiaofu confirmed that he was still able to condense the array flags, spiritual stoves and symbol cauldrons, and launch his soul attacks, before finally feeling relieved. Although the meridian soul and the primordial spirit had merged into one, Du Xiaofu still had the means of martial arts and talisman masters. What's more, it was different from what it used to be. It was just that after the meridian soul and the primordial spirit merged into one, the two became one, completely natural. It was already impossible to distinguish between a martial artist and a spiritual talisman master. Du Xiaofu didn't know the reason for this change. He asked his foster father, Jialo Changtian, but he was also puzzled. He suspected that it had something to do with the fusion of the meridian soul and the primordial spirit. However, this didn't have any effect on him, so Du Xiaofu didn't feel too conflicted about it. After refining the materials, Du Xiaofu spent 3 or 4 days in the ancient desolate space before finally refining all of the materials needed to refine the puppet. Walala! Inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron, there were balls of pure liquid boiling like magma. Multicolored light filled the air, and energy fluctuated, releasing resplendent rays of light. The materials needed to refine the martial domain puppet were all extraordinary. With Du Xiaofu's current strength, it would take a lot of time to refine it. Huff! After withdrawing his hand seal, Du Xiaofu spat out a mouthful of turbid air. His gaze immediately turned to the Thunder old man, who had been restless all this time. He didn't hide his coldness, and a sneer appeared on his face. "What do you want to do?" The Thunder old man was terrified for no reason. In these dozens of hours, he had watched Du Xiaofu refine the materials. At this moment, his eyes were filled with undisguised coldness as he looked at him with a sneer. It was as if he had some kind of premonition in his heart. His primordial spirit was excited and trembled. "I'll let you die, and I'll let you live." Du Xiaofu spoke without any mercy. He waved his hand, and an invisible claw distorted the void, wrapping the Thunder old man's restriction and throwing him into the spiritual stove talisman cauldron. Not good. In the end, the Thunder old man seemed to have finally confirmed something. Absolute fear climbed out from the depths of his soul. His pupils contracted, and he trembled in fear. Walala! As the Thunder old man's body entered the spiritual stove talisman cauldron, his yellow robes immediately turned to ashes. Under the scorching flames, his skin immediately began to sizzle. Like barbecued meat, the surface of his body shriveled up, and his skin became charred and cracked. Blood constantly flowed out, and in the end, it turned into white mist under the high temperature. Arg! A miserable howl rang out from the Thunder old man's mouth. His body was covered in blood, and his flesh was mangled. Strands of blood seeped out from his shriveled body, turning into wisps of smoke in the flames of the spiritual stove talisman cauldron. However, the nerves and cells in the Thunder old man's body had not been destroyed. In the flames, his muscles constantly twitched, and even his heart could be seen beating faintly. All of this was cruel and bloody, but Du Xiaofu did not find it cruel or bloody at all. If he had ended up in the hands of the devil religion, his fate would have been reversed immediately. In this world, the strong were respected. Everything depended on strength, and the strong preyed on the weak. Whoever had the hardest fist would be able to survive. Du Xiaofu had always understood the principle of the strong being respected. Moreover, this Thunder old man was a member of the devil religion and had a blood feud with the Seven-Star Hall. Therefore, Du Xiaofu did not find it cruel at all. Concentrating all his attention on controlling the flames inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron, Du Xiaofu did not dare be careless. The flames inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron were too great, enough to burn the Thunder old man's body to ashes. But if the flames inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron were too small, the temperature would not be high enough, and the impurities inside the Thunder old man's body would not be refined, which would not meet the requirements for refining a puppet. Time slowly passed, and under Du Xiaofu's careful refinement, the impurities inside the Thunder old man's body were gradually refined, and he was already slowly becoming stronger. The Thunder old man's screams became softer and softer. His sparkling muscles were filled with runes and radiance. The body of a martial domain realm cultivator was definitely extraordinary. However, the flames inside Du Xiaofu's spiritual stove talisman cauldron were no longer the same as before. The flames were like divine flames, causing the Thunder old man's body to constantly shrink as if there was power condensing. Du Xiaofu gradually became familiar with such refinement, but the consumption was also great. His face was pale, and he was sweating profusely. This consumption was great. Du Xiaofu sighed inside. Fortunately, he was a Nirvana Grand Sovereign. If he was at the peak of the 9-star Nirvana realm, he probably would not have been able to hold on. Du Xiaofu refined wholeheartedly. Inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron, the Thunder old man's body had already become dark, as if it was wrapped in a faint, dark membrane. At this moment, the Thunder Old Man's body was sparkling and translucent, but the runes had already been restrained. His bones and muscles had all undergone an absolute refinement. At a glance, he gave off an astonishing feeling of power. Begin the third step. Lu Xiaoyu frowned slightly. He could not afford to make a mistake in the next step. Qi, as the hand seal condensed, a silver-gold energy pillar shot out from between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows and immediately entered the Thunder Old Man's forehead. Kid, it's not that easy to refine me into a puppet. I'll fight it out with you. Within the Thunder Old Man's Niwen Palace, his soul roared. His eyes were filled with hatred. His soul was imprisoned in the Niwen Palace, but at this moment, as Du Xiaofu's soul power surged in, he immediately pounced towards Du Xiaofu. Rumble. The Thunder Old Man was also a genuine martial domain realm cultivator. The power of his soul was extremely powerful. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in his Niwen Palace. Runes shone resplendently as they swept out in all directions. Obliterate. Du Xiaofu's voice resounded like thunder in the Thunder Old Man's Niwen Palace. A silver-gold light burst out and descended with the supreme pressure, directly suppressing the Thunder Old Man's soul. A large number of dazzling silver-gold runes were released and turned into a cage, binding the Thunder Old Man's soul within. The power of Du Xiaofu's soul was too strong. With the supreme pressure, it was completely beyond the Thunder Old Man's imagination. The strength of the soul was not something the Thunder Old Man could touch. The silver-gold runes were like electric arcs, binding the Thunder Old Man and obliterating the will in his soul. All of this made the Thunder Old Man's hair stand on end. Fear surged from the depths of his soul, but he could not stop it in time. That deep sense of helplessness made the Thunder Old Man feel like he was in a state of utter misery. This time, the Thunder Old Man thought that he would definitely be able to capture Du Xiaofu. But the final result was something the Thunder Old Man had never expected. He ended up like this. Du Xiaofu used the power of his soul to obliterate the will in the Thunder Old Man's soul. When creating a living puppet, the most important thing was its soul and primordial spirit. The puppet would retain its original soul and primordial spirit, allowing it to be filled with intelligence and its own consciousness. At the same time, it would retain the skills and techniques it had when it was alive and would absolutely obey its master. Everything depended on its primordial spirit. If the soul was completely obliterated, all the previous efforts would be in vain. What one would get would only be a dead puppet. Only by wiping out the consciousness and will within the Yuan spirit and leaving behind pure Yuan spirit power and intelligence was the most difficult and also the most terrifying. Once such a puppet was refined, it would not only be an absolute killing machine, but also a killing machine with intelligence. How terrifying would that be? However, Du Xiaofu had succeeded in the end. With his freakish primordial spirit power, although it was Du Xiaofu's first time refining it, and he had almost failed a few times, he had still succeeded in the end. As the Thunder Old Man's soul and self-consciousness were completely obliterated, Du Xiaofu directly injected a ray of silver-gold soul power into the depths of the former soul and set up a seal to control the latter soul. Chapter 1437. Secret Puppet Technique, Condense. In the next instant, Du Xiaofu's eyes shone brightly, and his whole body rippled with white divine light. The solution of the refining materials in the spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron immediately boiled up, and then directly poured on the body of the Thunder Elder. ZZ. As the liquid poured onto the Lightning Old Man's body, it produced a sizzling sound. Inscriptions pulsed and shone resplendently as the energy of the world surged. Hand seals condensed one after another. Du Xiaofu became even more focused, not daring to be careless at all. Strands of strange light condensed from Du Xiaofu's hand seals, turning into the light of mysterious inscriptions. In the end, they landed on the Lightning Old Man's body. Under the light of these inscriptions, the boiling magma of the materials fused with the Lightning Old Man's body that had been tempered. At this moment, the Lightning Old Man's originally dull and empty eyes, which were almost dead, began to strangely and slowly reveal an ice-cold pale white gaze. This gaze seemed to come from a creature that had emerged from the depths of hell. It gave off an icy cold feeling, enough to make people's hair stand on end. At this moment, as the liquid of the refining materials and the inscriptions in Du Xiaofu's hand descended, the enlightening old man's body began to dark green. It shone with an icy green metallic luster. He had completely turned into a puppet. Boom! At a certain moment, the space trembled, and the aura surrounding the puppet instantly started to rise. A berserk aura gushed out, and even the raging flames inside the spiritual stove and symbol cauldron were shaken, causing Du Xiaofu's spiritual stove and symbol cauldron to shake violently. The rising aura was not small, and even Du Xiaofu felt some pressure. From the puppet, the aura continued to rise as if it was unstoppable. It was done in a single spurt of energy. It's a success. The puppet is becoming stronger. Looking at everything before him, Du Xiaofu could not help but be overjoyed. However, the puppet's aura did not continue to rise for long before stabilizing. Boom! The puppet leapt out from the spiritual stove, landing in front of Du Xiaofu. Its whole body was covered in a dark green metallic luster, occasionally flickering with yellow lightning. Awe-inspiring, it seemed to contain explosive power, ready to explode at any time. Du Xiaofu sized up the puppet in front of him. The puppet's eyes turned, as if it was sizing up Du Xiaofu as well. Their hearts were connected, as if their primordial spirits were connected. This was the result of the primordial spirit imprint that Du Xiaofu had placed. Du Xiaofu felt that the aura of the puppet before him did not seem to have increased by much. It should be because it was his first time refining it, and he was not very familiar with it. But no matter what, Du Xiaofu was happy that he had succeeded on his first try. From now on, you'll be called Thunder Centipede, right? Du Xiaofu looked at the puppet in front of him. The yellow arcs of lightning that flowed from time to time should be related to the lightning abilities that the Lightning Elder had cultivated before his death. It also allowed him to become even more powerful after being refined into a puppet. Yes, master. The puppet nodded in response. Its voice was cold and emotionless. Although its eyes were empty, they flickered with yellow arcs of lightning. It was clearly different from ordinary puppets. Punch me with all your strength, Du Xiaofu said. He could not help but want to try out the power of the puppet he had refined for the first time. Boom! The Thunder Centipede moved directly, turning into a yellow streamer. Behind it, yellow electric arcs rose and fell like a storm, exuding an astonishing pressure, accompanied by thunderous rumbles. A fist wrapped in electric arcs appeared directly in front of Du Xiaofu. This punch was very terrifying. It shattered the space and shook the ancient space as if it was on the verge of collapse. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. He did not expect the Thunder Centipede to attack so quickly. He shook his arm and clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. Golden light shone from his fist, like golden lava gushing out. He directly collided with the Thunder Centipede. The golden light in front of his fist exploded, and mysterious runes flashed. It was as if the space was collapsing. Boom! The 2 fists directly collided. The space exploded, and a dazzling wave of runes appeared, as if to overturn the ancient space. Then, the Lightning Elder directly retreated. Du Xiaofu did not move at all, like a rock. So strong. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes revealed a look of astonishment. The defense of the Dark Thunder Centipede was really strong. The collision of their fists caused the sound of metal exploding. That strength was also very terrifying. If not for the fact that he was not afraid of lightning and was almost immune to the power of lightning, he would have suffered some hidden losses just now. With one punch, Du Xiaofu could already judge that the Lightning Elder's body puppet's defense had reached an amazing level. Its strength had also increased a lot compared to when it was alive. It could be said that compared to the initial domain of the Devil Religion's martial domain realm that he had killed before, it was absolutely tyrannical. The Lightning Elder retreated far away, and the lightning in its eyes flashed. It did not continue to attack. There were some traces of collision on its fist. Under Du Xiaofu's punch, its fist was not damaged. It's really good. Looking at the Lightning Elder, Du Xiaofu became more and more satisfied. This was no ordinary puppet. In a real battle, it was likely that there would be very few people among the initial domain stage who would be able to deal with it. In addition, the puppet's physique was already abnormally strong, and its strength was absolutely astonishing. This time, I have to thank the devil religion for giving me a big gift. Du Xiaofu pursed his lips and smiled. A martial domain realm puppet was definitely a big gift. If he had known earlier, he would not have killed the devil religion's martial domain realm middle-aged man. He should have stopped them earlier and asked Jialo Jueyu and the others to show mercy. If he could refine the 4 devil religion's martial domain realm cultivators into such puppets, they would be absolutely terrifying helpers by his side. They would be loyal and would never betray him. After admiring himself with satisfaction, Du Xiaofu kept the Enlightening Elder into his Qinkuan bag. After cleaning up the surroundings, Du Xiaofu threw a few elixirs into his mouth. He sat down cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. This time, refining the Enlightening Elder had exhausted Du Xiaofu greatly. He circulated the golden-winged Great Rock Clan's cultivation technique and began to absorb the energy of the elixirs to recover. When Du Xiaofu had recovered to his peak, he flew out of the ancient, desolate space and found the flaming wind chariot floating in the air. The 4th Elder and the 5th Elder were looking ahead. We have arrived at the Tianhuang mainland. However, something seems to have happened there. The wormhole has been sealed and many savage beasts have gathered along the way. Seeing Du Xiaofu, the Zither devil, Shangguan Xian, said, "What a strong smell of blood. There was a bloody battle nearby not long ago." Du Xiaofu stood on the Galewind fire chariot and surveyed his surroundings. High up in the air was filled with the stench of blood. Mountains and earth had collapsed and were dyed red with blood. Not long ago, a terrifying battle took place here. The Tianhuang city is in front. We will know the reason if we ask around. The 4th Elder said indifferently. They did not care much about the changes in the outside world. In order not to attract too much attention, the 5th Elder kept the flaming wind chariot. Everyone also concealed their auras and went to the Tianhuang city to ask around. Outside the Tianhuang city, Du Xiaofu was surprised to see many savage beasts inspecting. He did not know what they were inspecting. Someone in front secretly gave some elixirs to the savage beasts before they could enter the city. Du Xiaofu was not afraid of those savage beasts. Jialo Yi and Jialo Yuan too, the 4th Elder and 5th Elder of the golden-winged Great Rock Clan, were not afraid either. However, before he figured out the situation, Du Xiaofu chose to give a few elixirs to the inspecting savage beasts to reduce the trouble. Only then could they enter the city. These savage beasts are too much. They actually trapped us here. Lower your voice, lest those savage beasts hear you. This is the Tianhuang mainland. It is the territory of those savage beasts. It is better for us to hide. Some people discussed on the street, feeling indignant. I am the protector of the Black Lotus Church in Wanzhou. Let's see if those savage beasts dare to touch me. A black-clad middle-aged man stood on the street and said with his head held high, looking angry. Bang! However, just as that black-clad middle-aged man spoke, a huge foot descended from the sky. The foot was covered in talisman scripts and had an extremely ferocious aura. It crushed the ground on the street, and the surrounding buildings shook and cracked. That black-clad middle-aged man was also trampled into meat paste by the huge foot. So what if you are from the Black Lotus Church? Everyone, behave yourselves. During the lockdown of the Tianhuang city, only people can enter and not leave. Anyone who talks without permission will be killed without mercy. A deafening sound resounded like thunder. A giant bear that was hundreds of feet tall crossed the building and left. Its terrifying aura made everyone in Tianhuang city keep quiet out of fear and tremble in fear. Mysterious sovereign beast. Du Xiaofu looked at that huge, savage bear. A mysterious sovereign beast. He could not help but drool. It had been a long time since he had a good meal. However, Du Xiaofu held back and did not make a move. He still did not know what had happened in the Tianhuang mainland. According to what Du Xiaofu knew, the Tianhuang mainland was full of danger. There were people from all walks of life. There were also many rogue cultivators and savage beasts hiding among them. Now that there was such a huge commotion and savage beasts sealing the city, It was definitely not ordinary. Du Xiaofu thought that something big must have happened in the Tianhuang mainland. Tell me what has happened in the Tianhuang mainland recently. Otherwise, die. A moment later, at a corner, the middle-aged Zither Devil's demonic beast mount fiercely captured an old man in his 50s. Just his aura alone was enough to make the old man tremble in fear. Legend has it that not long ago, the Desolation Leopard of the Tianhuang Cliff obtained a treasure. However, it was betrayed by its second commander, Jin Gu, who leaked the news to the Skymoon Poisonous Spider and the Savage Gu Condor. Therefore, the Skymoon Poisonous Spider and the Savage Gu Condor joined forces and defeated the Desolation Leopard 5 days ago. Now, they should be gathered at the bottom of the Tianhuang Cliff, planning to completely eliminate the Desolation Leopard. Afraid that the news of the treasure would be leaked, the Skymoon Poisonous Spider and the Savage Gu Condor sealed the Tianhuang city and the wormhole. Chapter 1438. The old man's body trembled as he explained the general situation with fear. Facing the ferocious middle-aged man, he was even more fearful than the aura of the barbarian bear. The Skymoon Poison Spider, the Savage Chong Eagle, and the Desolation Leopard were the three kings of the Tianhuang mainland and controlled the entire Tianhuang mainland. The three of them had always restrained each other, but for the sake of the treasure and the fact that the Desolation Leopard was getting stronger, the Skymoon Poison Spider and the Savage Chong Eagle joined forces. Let's go. The middle-aged man who was the Zither Demon's mount shouted for the old man to leave after receiving Du Xiaofu's signal. To think that these savage beasts still exist in the Tianhuang mainland. However, it seems that they are far from what they used to be. The fourth elder, Jialo Yi, sighed with a hint of vicissitudes in his eyes. Elder, do the savage beasts of the Tianhuang mainland have a history? Du Xiaofu asked curiously when he heard that. However, he frowned slightly at this moment. The Desolation Leopard was an old acquaintance. The rumor has been around for a long time, but it shouldn't be wrong. Now, the strongest among the beasts are still the scaled beasts and the birds. There are dragons and phoenixes, but among the walking beasts, only the tiger race can stand up to them. However, in a true comparison, even the white tiger race is slightly inferior to the dragons and phoenixes. Back then, the Qilin race reigned supreme among the walking beasts, while the scaled beasts reigned supreme among the dragons and phoenixes. Later on, the dragons and phoenixes joined forces to defeat the Qilin race during the Great Tribulation of the dragons and phoenixes. From then on, the Qilin race vanished without a trace and has not appeared since. There are rumors that the Qilin race has long been destroyed. The fourth elder, Jialo Yi, said to Du Xiaofu, the savage beasts on the Tianhuang mainland now are the bloodlines left behind by the followers of the Qilin race. After the Qilin race was defeated, the remnants of the Qilin race fled to the Tianhuang mainland. Rumor has it that they escaped the calamity under the protection of a supreme expert. That supreme expert said that he would not protect those savage beasts once he left Tianhuang mainland. As time passed, the remnants of the defeated army that followed the Qilin race reproduced here. Out of fear of the dragon race and phoenix race, they did not leave and left behind some ancestral teachings that they were not allowed to leave Tianhuang mainland for generations. Later on, the dragon race and the phoenix race both suffered heavy losses, and a great calamity appeared. Then, the human race prospered in the world, and they were incompatible with the beast race. As time passed, there were very few people in Tianhuang mainland, and those savage beasts got used to it as well. None of them ventured out, and Tianhuang mainland became a barren land. Those savage beasts were trapped here, and since ancient times, they have been declining. To think that the savage beasts of Tianhuang mainland have such a history that was passed down from the ancient times. Qilin race was Qilin the heavens, beasts, Qilin the heavens race. Chu back then, Du Xiaofu had learned from the Desolation Leopard that it revered the Qilin race as its leader. It did not like the dragons and phoenixes, and even viewed them as enemies. It turned out that there was such an ancient history behind it. Some small savage beasts can't do much. Let's just head to the wormhole, said the fifth elder. Jialo Yuan too. The savage beasts had sealed off the wormhole in the Tianhuang city, but he naturally did not care about it. Elders, I'm afraid we can't do that now. There are some things we have to intervene in. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. He already knew about this. Putting aside the fact that he had some ties with the Desolation Leopard, he had used the Desolation Leopard's blood essence to refine his body. He had even advanced from a martial venerable to a mystical martial venerable. Although he had used the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron to refine his body and the Golden Rock's blood essence to help him evolve, it was still considered a deal. Moreover, Scarlet Rock was the Desolation Leopard's adopted son. Even if it was just that, Du Xiaofu would not just stand by and do nothing when he knew about it. The Tianhuang city was naturally unable to trap Du Xiaofu, the Zither demon, Jialo Yi, and the Fourth Elder. If they wanted to leave, the savage beasts would not even be able to detect them. Roar. The roars of the beasts were endless. Huge savage beasts gathered everywhere. There were millions of them densely packed together. Rumble. A ferocious aura gathered and soared into the sky. Wherever the beast tide passed, the mountains collapsed and the ground trembled. At dusk, a huge mountain range appeared. The mountain range was like a vast cliff surrounded by dark clouds. The fluctuations of the aura were unusual. Swoosh, swoosh. 5 figures appeared quietly. They were Du Xiaofu, Elder Jialo Yi, Elder Jialo Yuan II, the Zither demon, Shangguan Qixin, and his mount. Is this the Tianhuang Cliff? There seems to be an extraordinary talisman formation, but it is already damaged. The Zither demon looked ahead. The aura around the mountain range was ancient, and there were energy fluctuations. There should be a talisman formation, and it was not an ordinary one. There are many ancient talisman formations here. Rumor has it that they have existed for a long time, so they are already damaged. If an unfamiliar person comes in, it will be easy for him or her to fall into danger. Du Xiaofu said to the Zither demon. This was what Blue Fantasy had told him. There are intruders. Capture them. Suddenly, many figures rushed out from the mountain range in front of them. Hundreds of ferocious auras swept over. They were on standby. Retreat. It's a friend, not an enemy. Inform the commander that an old friend has come to visit. Du Xiaofu's purple robe fluttered. He stood with his hands behind his back. An invisible aura fluctuated faintly. The hundreds of savage beast experts did not dare to come close. Their beast souls trembled for no reason. All of you, retreat. Quickly retreat. A delicate shout was heard. A blue fairy-like girl suddenly descended. She was wearing tight blue armor that outlined an absolutely seductive curve. Her delicate body also revealed a kind of vigorous gentleness. The woman also had a head of extremely special light blue hair, which was so shiny that it could reflect one's reflection. It naturally draped over her waist, and her graceful figure was extremely graceful. She looked at Du Xiaofu with astonishment in her eyes and said, "Brother Xiaofu, why are you here?" The girl in front of him was Blue Fantasy. She was also very surprised when she saw Du Xiaofu suddenly appear. Ever since Lan Huan had followed Du Xiaofu on his adventures, she had been shocked by his ferocious and domineering nature. Later on, she had always addressed Du Xiaofu as Big Brother Xiaofu, just like Qi Peng. However, at this moment, looking at the people beside Du Xiaofu, they seemed to be extremely unfamiliar. The black-robed youth was also not present. The expression in her beautiful eyes couldn't help but secretly dim a little. I heard the news and came to see if I could help. Du Xiaofu smiled. Seeing that Scarlet Rock did not appear, he then asked, Miss Blue Fantasy, where is Scarlet Rock? Hearing this, Blue Fantasy frowned and said, Scarlet Rock is injured. Her injuries are not light. My father is treating Scarlet Rock's injuries. Quickly take me there. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's face instantly darkened. A moment later, Du Xiaofu saw Scarlet Rock sitting cross-legged in a large hall on the heavenly cliff. At this moment, Scarlet Rock had the appearance of a 13 or 14-year-old youth. His face was resolute and his body was majestic. However, his eyes were tightly shut and his aura was weak. His face was also very pale. Scarlet Rock's injuries are very serious, but she should be fine now. She needs time to recover. Fortunately, her foundation was not damaged. How fortunate. Within the hall, the Desolation Leopard's deep eyes surged with cold anger. Although his body was thin, his aura was powerful. His aura caused the patterned cloak on his body to flutter. Du Xiaofu stepped forward with a serious expression and checked Scarlet Rock's injuries. It could be seen that the Desolation Leopard had spent a lot of effort to treat Scarlet Rock's injuries. Just as the Desolation Leopard had said, Scarlet Rock was fine now, but she needed time to rest. After relaxing his tense mood, Du Xiaofu stuffed a few decent healing pills into Scarlet Rock's mouth. Then, he moved Scarlet Rock into the ancient Desolation space. After doing all this, Du Xiaofu asked the Desolation Leopard, "Great Commander, who injured Scarlet Rock?" "I was fighting with the Sky Moon venomous spider and the Gudiao. I was careless and that bastard Jingu injured Scarlet Rock," the Desolation Leopard said with his fists clenched. Jingu was his second commander. This time, not only did he betray him, but he also almost caused his foster son, Scarlet Rock, to die. He was furious. Jingu. Du Xiaofu's eyes glowed with a golden light. He still remembered that person. He was Jingu's father. His original form was a golden-scaled ancient lion. He did not have a good impression of him back then. Afterwards, Du Xiaofu roughly understood the situation from the Desolation Leopard. Not long ago, in a secret place, the Desolation Leopard obtained a treasure by chance. That treasure was extraordinary, but Jingu suddenly betrayed him. He led many experts to join the Sky Moon venomous spider and the Gudiao. His body was tempered by the golden divine thunder, and he had obtained the golden winged rock's blood essence and divine ability. His strength was superior to the Gudiao and the Sky Moon venomous spider. However, when the two beasts joined forces, the Desolation Leopard could only barely resist them. However, a portion of the Desolation Cliff's savage beast experts had been lured away by Jingu. With the Sky Moon venomous spider and the Gudiao joining forces, it was naturally difficult for the Desolation Cliff to fight. In the most intense battle 5 days ago, the Desolation Cliff suffered a great defeat and suffered great losses. This is the treasure. I have studied it for a long time, but I know nothing about it. I don't even know anything about it. A moment later, the Desolation Leopard brought Du Xiaofu to a secret room. Accompanying them were Zither Demon, 4th Elder Jialo Yi, and 5th Elder Jialo Yuan II. The Desolation Leopard could tell that Du Xiaofu was extremely respectful towards the two old men. The auras of the two old men were withdrawn, causing it to be difficult for the leopard to detect any fluctuations. However, this caused the leopard to feel uneasy in its heart. Therefore, the Desolation Leopard was not rude. He was also very polite to 4th Elder Jialo Yi and 5th Elder Jialo Yuan II. Sensing the Zither Demon's aura, the Desolation Leopard was secretly surprised. To have such a cultivation at such a young age, he was definitely not an ordinary person. There was a yellow stone the size of an adult's palm on a stone table in the secret room. The stone was round and smooth. It was covered with layers of dark runes. It looked like a rune, but there was no aura or light. However, the strange thing was that the round yellow stone was filled with a yellow light from time to time. It was faintly discernible and gave off an ancient aura. Chapter 1439. The presence seemed to have crossed through time and space, causing Du Xiaofu, the Zither Demon, the 4th Elder, and the 5th Elder to enter the secret room. Immediately, their eyes trembled, and their gazes landed on it. I don't know what this is. I've studied it for a long time and tried many methods, but to no avail. The Desolation Leopard said to Du Xiaofu and the rest. Ever since he had obtained this item, he had studied it for a long time, but to no avail. He did not know what it was, but he could sense that it was definitely not an ordinary item.
How strange.
The 4th Elder, Jialo Yi, and the 5th Elder, Jialo Yuan II, carefully studied the yellow rock. They could clearly sense that it was something extraordinary. The presence made them tremble. They probed it with their souls, but to no avail. The Zither Demon also studied it with interest, but in the end, he could only shake his head. Du Xiaofu studied the yellow rock. He tried channeling his profound energy into it, but it did not respond at all. In the end, Du Xiaofu even tried dripping a drop of blood on it, but there was still no response when the faint golden blood landed on the round yellow rock. What on earth is this thing? Du Xiaofu frowned. He tried to use force to split the round yellow rock, but he discovered that it was tougher than anything else. Swish. Even when Du Xiaofu used his full strength in the end, he was unable to damage it at all. Du Xiaofu, the fourth elder, the fifth elder, and the zither demon were all very shocked. I've tried all these methods. They're all useless. The desolation leopard smiled at Du Xiaofu. He had tried dripping a drop of blood on it, probing with his soul, and so on. If they were useful, he would have discovered them long ago. Is this a divine material for forging weapons? Du Xiaofu was puzzled. He really wanted to try and see if the round yellow rock was really so tough that it was indestructible. He formed a seal with his hand, and a spiritual stove symbol cauldron immediately appeared. Boom! Immediately, the five-colored spiritual stove symbol cauldron became scorching hot. Flames roared as an ancient pressure filled the surroundings, causing the desolation leopard to secretly tremble. How did he become so strong? What a monster! The desolate sky leopard was secretly shocked. Back in the Tianhuang mainland, the youth before him had only just become a martial saint. His subsequent breakthroughs were already very terrifying. However, at this moment, the aura from the cauldron already made the desolate sky leopard tremble uncontrollably. He was unable to see through the exact level of the aura, but the ancient pressure from the five-colored cauldron was definitely not simple. Walala! Du Xiaofu threw the perfectly round yellow stone into the spiritual stove symbol cauldron, but after no less than 2 hours, that perfectly round yellow stone still didn't show any reaction. Even its color didn't change, but it was still filled with a kind of yellow radiance, faintly discernible. Du Xiaofu had no choice but to give up. That round yellow rock was like a stubborn rock that could not be destroyed. However, the ancient aura that permeated the air was sufficient to cause the hearts of everyone present to tremble. Furthermore, its indestructibility was sufficient to prove that this item was no ordinary item. Great Commander, how did you obtain this item? Du Xiaofu picked up the perfectly round yellow stone, intentionally or otherwise, and bit into it. He even muttered softly, "This thing, could it be an egg left behind by an ancient ferocious bird? Perhaps it can be eaten." Hearing that, the zither demon rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu. That savage guy was actually still thinking about eating at a time like this. I obtained this item from an ancient land. When this item appeared, it caused strange phenomena in the surroundings, causing clouds to move, lightning to flash, and thunder to rumble. As a result, Jin Gu thought that I had obtained a peerless treasure and asked me to borrow it to take a look. I took it out, but Jin Gu didn't believe me. Afterwards, he wanted to propose to Blue Fantasy for Jean Lin's sake. I respected Blue Fantasy's wishes and could only refuse. I never thought that he would become dissatisfied and side with the Sky Moon venomous spider and the savage venomous condor. I already knew that he had ulterior motives, so I wanted to give him another chance out of consideration for our friendship. The desolate sky leopard's eyes were cold as he clenched his fists. I can't bite through it. It doesn't look like an egg, Du Xiaofu muttered. He put down the perfectly round yellow rock in his hand and planned to throw it to the side. He really couldn't figure out the origin of this item. However, according to the desolate sky leopard, this item had caused strange phenomena, lightning, and thunder when it appeared. It should have an extraordinary origin. Chi-la, suddenly, the secret room shone with a yellow light that turned into a golden light. There were also golden arcs of lightning wreaking havoc. The dazzling light made it difficult for everyone to open their eyes. In the next moment, even Jialo Ye's fourth elder and Jialo Yuantu's fifth elder were unable to react. After the dazzling golden light dissipated, Du Xiaofu was left in a daze, his eyes tightly shut. At this moment, the perfectly round yellow rock in Du Xiaofu's hand had disappeared. What's going on? The four looked at Du Xiaofu in astonishment. Everyone had clearly seen the change just now. It came from Du Xiaofu. Chi. A while later, Du Xiaofu opened his tightly shut eyes. They shone with a dazzling light, but he seemed a little dazed. The corner of his mouth twitched uncontrollably as he said, "Shit. What's wrong? Where's the item?" Jialo Yuantu nervously asked Du Xiaofu. "I don't know what's going on either. That thing has entered my Naiwan palace and I can't drive it out." Du Xiaofu was at a loss. He had just planned to throw the yellow rock back, But who knew that he would want to see if the power of his Yuan spirit would have any effect? He had originally only used his Yuan spirit to probe the item, but a strand of his Yuan spirit had shot out from his forehead and landed on the perfectly round yellow rock. Du Xiaofu thought that there would be no reaction. Who would have thought that the previously unresponsive yellow rock would suddenly seem to come alive? With the speed of lightning, it swallowed the strand of his Yuan spirit and then directly rushed into his Naiwen palace. Du Xiaofu wanted to stop it, but it was too late. Du Xiaofu was greatly alarmed when a foreign object entered his Naiwen palace. He immediately urged his Yuan spirit to expel it. But at this moment, Du Xiaofu noticed that after the strange, completely round yellow glowing rock entered his Naiwen palace, the dense and intricate dark markings that covered it seemed to have come to life. They were suffused with a dazzling golden glow that covered a layer of strange talisman markings, and they were suffused with an even more ancient and shocking aura. At the same time, the perfectly round rock, which was originally indestructible, seemed to come alive as the runes flickered. It was no longer hard, as if it had become soft and boneless. It even began to quietly absorb the power of his Yuan spirit. The speed at which it absorbed the Yuan spirit was extremely slow, like that of a baby who needed to be breastfed. It would not cause too much of an impact on Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit, but it was enough to shock Du Xiaofu. At the very least, the foreign object did not fear the spiritual lightning in Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit. It was as if it needed to devour the spiritual lightning. No matter how Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit tried to expel it, the foreign object was like duckweed, moving with the wind in Du Xiaofu's Naiwen palace. As Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit attacks floated and landed on the mysterious foreign object, it was like a rainstorm hitting a banana leaf, causing it to fluctuate. But it was able to dissipate the force without leaving a trace. There was nothing it could do. Is there any danger? Fourth Elder Jialo Ye's expression turned serious. The foreign object had entered Du Xiaofu's Naiwen palace. The Naiwen palace was the most important place for a cultivator, so he could not help but be nervous. There doesn't seem to be any danger for now. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly and shook his head. He could not expel the foreign object at all. However, the foreign object did not seem to have any intention of attacking him. At least, there were no signs of it attacking him. The mysterious foreign object refused to come out of the Naiwen palace. It was only absorbing the Yuan spirit like a baby drinking milk. Do you want to go back to the clan and take a look? Fifth Elder Jialo Yuan too was worried. After returning to the clan, the Sacred Elder and the First Elder would be there. Perhaps they would be able to see some problems. If there was a problem, it would be too late to regret it. There should be no danger for now. Du Xiaofu was not a careless person, but he still shook his head. The Scarlet Horse Monkey Yuan spirit also stopped attacking. There was an intangible feeling that made Du Xiaofu feel that the foreign object did not have any intention of attacking him. It was as if it was still in his Naiwen palace, giving off a joyful feeling. First Commander. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly at the Desolation Leopard. After all, the treasure belonged to the Desolation Leopard. Now that it was in his Naiwen palace, it seemed like he had taken it by force. Little brother Xiaofu, there is no need to say anything more. I am also unable to figure out what this treasure is. It should be fated to be with you. As the saying goes, the fated shall obtain it. The Desolation Leopard could do nothing about it now. He could only smile bitterly. Although he was unable to figure out what the foreign object was, he could sense that it was definitely a treasure. Even if he was unable to figure it out, the Desolation Leopard was still unwilling to part with it. However, with the current situation, the Desolation Leopard had absolute faith in Du Xiaofu's character. Therefore, there was nothing he could do other than smile bitterly. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. After a moment of hesitation, he said to the Desolation Leopard, "How about this, First Commander? I'll help you deal with the current trouble at the Desolation Cliff. In addition, I have a legacy left behind by an ancient saint patterned leopard expert. I can give it to you or Blue Fantasy as compensation." There were quite a few legacies from the ancient beast clan in the Celestial Beast Hall. Although he did not know what the foreign object was and it might even be a threat to him, Du Xiaofu was too embarrassed to take it for free. He took out the legacy of an ancient saint patterned leopard to make up for it. Furthermore, Du Xiaofu had a good relationship with the Desolation Leopard. From the injuries on Scarlet Rock's body, Du Xiaofu could clearly see that the Desolation Leopard was willing to expend all his energy to heal Scarlet Rock at the critical moment of the Desolation Cliff. This showed that he treated Scarlet Rock as his own flesh and blood. Therefore, he was willing to take out the legacy of an ancient saint pattern leopard. One had to know that the legacy of an ancient saint pattern leopard was definitely not simple. For it to have the word saint in it, it meant that the legendary Saint Martial Realm and Saint Beast Realm existed. Chapter 1440. The fact that the ancient sacred pattern leopard had the word sacred was enough to prove what the ancient sacred pattern leopard represented. It was the top bloodline of the ancient leopard clan, the supreme existence of the leopard clan. Back then, the Silver Blood Leopard King did not obtain the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance in the Heavenly Beast Hall. He only obtained another top leopard inheritance that was second only to the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance. Ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance. Hearing this, the Desolation Leopard's eyes trembled. As the king of the leopard clan, how could he not know what the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance represented? If Du Xiaofu had said that he would exchange the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance for that unknown treasure, the Desolation Leopard would have agreed without hesitation. The ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance was too important to the leopard clan. Pass it to Blue Fantasy. I'm not young anymore. Blue Fantasy's future will be even brighter. The Desolation Leopard did not hesitate to hand over the inheritance of the ancient saint-patterned leopard to his daughter, Lan Huan. As for Du Xiaofu's words, he had absolute faith in them. It would not be strange for someone who could take out the divine lightning body forging technique and the golden-winged rock's blood to possess the inheritance of the ancient saint-patterned leopard. All right, after dealing with the Desolation Cliff, I'll arrange for Blue Fantasy to receive the inheritance. Du Xiaofu nodded. The effect of Blue Fantasy receiving the inheritance was indeed better than the Desolation Leopard receiving the inheritance. Originally, with Blue Fantasy's talent, it would not be difficult for her to surpass her father in the future. After receiving the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance, her future would be limitless. The Desolation Cliff's crisis this time is difficult to resolve. The Skymoon Spider and Savage Chongdiao will definitely not let this go. Jingu heavily injured Scarlet Rock but did not kill her. He is using my weakness. His goal is to make me waste my energy to treat Scarlet Rock. They seem to be gathering beasts these days, but they are actually giving me time to treat Scarlet Rock. According to my guess, they should know that I'm almost done treating Scarlet Rock. They will attack tomorrow at the latest. They will take advantage of my exhaustion to completely deal with Desolation Cliff. The Desolation Leopard pondered for a while and frowned. His expression was grave as he said to Du Xiaofu, Jingu is also familiar with the ancient formation on Desolation Cliff. I'm afraid Desolation Cliff won't be able to stop them. If tomorrow is really the last moment, then I'll ask little brother Xiaofu for a favor. Take Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock and leave. The further, the better. The Desolation Leopard could feel that Du Xiaofu's strength had greatly improved since Du Xiaofu had come to help. The two old men, in particular, were unfathomable. However, the Desolation Leopard did not think too much about it. After all, the Skymoon Spider and Savage Chongdiao were newcomers to the Beast region. They had come prepared and had many powerful beasts under them. They were not easy to deal with. That Jingu is truly sinister. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered when he heard that. Golden light flickered through his eyes. Du Xiaofu did not doubt the Desolation Leopard's guess. Not only was the Desolation Leopard domineering, but he was also vicious. Du Xiaofu had personally witnessed it. Back then, he had hidden his identity on Tianhuang continent, but he had not been able to escape the Desolation Leopard's eyes. The Desolation Leopard had even guessed his relationship with his drunkard father. It was enough to show how vicious the Desolation Leopard was. Otherwise, the Desolation Leopard would not have been able to suppress the Skymoon Spider and Savage Chongdiao for so many years. He definitely did not rely on strength alone. Xiaofu, if you're in a hurry to return to the Central Plains, I'll go exterminate the Skymoon Spider and Savage Chongdiao right now. Jialo Yuantu said to Du Xiaofu. He truly did not care about the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao. The Desolation Leopard could not help but click his tongue when he heard Jialo Yuantu's words. Although he felt that the two old men were definitely not simple, their tone was definitely not small either. Du Xiaofu smiled helplessly. If the fifth elder were to take action, the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao would probably die without even knowing how they died. There's no need to trouble the two elders. I can deal with this small matter myself. I don't mind delaying it for a day or two. Du Xiaofu was already rather embarrassed to have the two elders personally accompany him back to the Central Plains. He did not want to trouble the two elders with such a small matter. From the information he had gathered along the way, the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao were barely able to suppress the Desolation Leopard by working together. Du Xiaofu could more or less guess the strength of the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao. He was enough to deal with them. Even the Een Thunder Centipede on him was enough. There was no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. It would be overestimating the two beasts to let the fourth and fifth elders do it personally. Commander, don't worry. You should rest and recover first. If the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao really dare to come tomorrow morning, I will definitely lend a hand. It won't be a big problem. Du Xiaofu then reassured the Desolation Leopard. It was already night time, so he did not mind delaying it for another day and a half. Sensing Du Xiaofu's confidence, the Desolation Leopard did not say anything else. He understood the purple-robed youth in front of him quite well. Therefore, he was also quite confident. Subsequently, Du Xiaofu went to see Qi Yin, Yu, and Qi Yin, Yao. Qi Yin, and Qi Yin, had improved a lot in the past few years after the Divine Lightning Body refinement. Qi Yin and Qi Yin had been worried about Scarlet Rock's injuries for the past few days. After hearing that Scarlet Rock was fine, they were relieved. However, they were still worried about the danger of the desolate cliff. However, when they saw Du Xiaofu come, the two of them were overjoyed. They even asked about Dongli Qingqing. The last two times they saw Du Xiaofu, they saw Dongli Qingqing beside him. I don't know where she is right now. In Du Xiaofu's mind, that fairy-like beauty also appeared. He did not know why she left without saying goodbye last time, and there had been no news about her since then. He would often think about her. The moonlight was tranquil and the stars twinkled, enveloping the vast land. Within the desolate cliff, the roars of savage beasts could be heard from time to time. The sound waves reverberated through the night sky. The moonlight was like silk, and the night wind blew gently. Du Xiaofu stood quietly, slightly raising his head and looking at a certain place. His eyes were suffused with a faint golden brilliance. Not enough. After a while, Du Xiaofu lowered his head and murmured softly. Although he had broken through to the nirvana stage, the higher the level he came in contact with, the more he knew. Du Xiaofu knew how big the world was. At first, he thought that the domain realm was already the top powerhouse in the world. From the information of the Golden-Winged Rock Clan and the Een Thunder Old Man, he knew that the domain realm alone was a world of difference. The devil religion had 9 great devil emperors and 108 devil envoys. The weakest 9 devil emperors were already so terrifying. As for the devil god, even the supreme powerhouses, the lord of the 3,000 boundless worlds and the dragon god, could only seal it with 9 purple lightning profound cauldrons. The 9 cauldrons gather and command the 9 families. Du Xiaofu had never understood the meaning of this sentence, but the gathering of the 9 cauldrons should have something to do with the other 8 purple lightning profound cauldrons. As for commanding the 9 families, Du Xiaofu vaguely felt that it might have something to do with the 9 families in the world. Miss Blue Fantasy, haven't you rested yet? Suddenly, Du Xiaofu spoke and turned his head slightly. His eyes were no longer deep in thought, and a smile appeared on his resolute and determined face. I just came back from my patrol and saw that Brother Xiaofu was here, so I came over. With a gentle voice, Lan Huan walked out. Under the moonlight, her delicate body exuded a kind of vigorous gentleness. Her light blue long hair shone like a mirror under the moonlight, naturally draping over her waist. Her figure under the tight blue armor was even more seductive and curvy. The curves of her body were like nature itself. Brother Xiaofu, is Scarlet Rock all right? Blue Fantasy walked up to Du Xiaofu's side. Her big eyes shone with a bit of sharp light, but they were bright and clear. Scarlet Rock is fine now. She will recover with time. Du Xiaofu nodded. Brother Xiaofu, why don't I see Sister Qing Qing? Sister Qing Qing, brother Little Demon and Little Tiger? Blue Fantasy looked at Du Xiaofu. Her big clear eyes flickered a little. Her body under the armor was curvaceous, and her waist was tight. It was as if she was silently enchanting and sending out a seductive invitation. You want to ask about the little tiger the most, right? Du Xiaofu laughed. How could he not see that Blue Fantasy wanted to ask about the little tiger the most? Along the way, Blue Fantasy and the little tiger's first awakening of love was obvious to anyone. I didn't. After being exposed, Lan Huan blushed shyly. She gave off an enchanting vibe with a wild charm that seemed to come from her bones. She could quietly tug at a man's nerves. Looking at the girl in front of him, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but sigh. The little tiger's taste was really good. No wonder Jean Lin was always thinking about her. I haven't been with Little Tiger and the others recently. But don't worry, when I meet the little tiger, I'll definitely let him come and see you. Du Xiaofu smiled. Naturally, he could see that Blue Fantasy was interested in the little tiger. As for the blood relationship, it wasn't much. The little tiger and Blue Fantasy were indeed compatible. In his heart, he was happy for the little tiger. Since the beginning of the barbaric Beast Mountain range, the little tiger had been by his side. Although the little tiger had always been his mount, in Du Xiaofu's heart, he had long regarded the little tiger as a family member, or even a brother. He was happy to see the little tiger's relationship with Blue Fantasy in the future. I don't want him to come and see me. I was just casually asking. Brother Xiaofu, I'm going to continue patrolling. Blue Fantasy's face flushed red with shyness. Her feet lightly stomped on the ground, and her beautiful figure immediately turned and left. Haha, Du Xiaofu faintly smiled. With a sweep of the long sleeves of his purple robe, he stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the night sky. In his mind, those beautiful figures involuntarily appeared, and a slight smile appeared on his lips. Roar, under the moonlight, from time to time. The roars of beasts would endlessly reverberate in the night sky. Waves of ferocious auras condensed on the mountains and earth, causing people to tremble in fear even if they approached. Father, do we still need to wait? Chapter 1441. On a mountain peak in the mountain range, one could see the majestic and continuous desolate cliff in the distance. A muscular young man spoke. His entire body was filled with a vigorous and ferocious aura. His appearance was not bad. It was Jean Lin. Beside Jean Lin was a slightly shorter, but extremely well-built middle-aged man. His eyes shone with a chilling light as he said, "It's about time." The desolate leopard won't just watch that Scarlet Rock die. As long as he helps, he'll need to expend a large amount of energy. At that time, the Skymoon Venom Spider and the Goo Condor will be enough to kill him. Looking at the time, we should be able to act tomorrow morning. After tomorrow, the desolate cliff will belong to us father and son. The desolate leopard's strength has increased rapidly, and now he wants to take the treasure for himself. I've followed him for so many years in vain. Since he's so heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. The middle-aged man was Jingu. Seeing the desolate leopard's cultivation grow stronger and stronger while he remained stagnant, he had long suspected that the desolate leopard had obtained some sort of treasure. This time, the desolate leopard had obtained a great treasure and even caused a phenomenon in the world. However, the desolate leopard had taken out a crappy rock to trick him. He could not help but feel resentful. Originally, he wanted to follow the plan and propose Blue Fantasy to the desolate leopard for Jean Lin. As long as his son and Jean Lin married Blue Fantasy, the desolate cliff would still belong to them. Unfortunately, the desolate leopard did not take him seriously and rejected him several times. He could no longer tolerate it, so he could only secretly work with the Skymoon Venom Spider and the Goo Condor to eliminate the desolate leopard. Father, you have to leave Blue Fantasy for me when the time comes, said Jean Lin. He could not get Blue Fantasy's graceful figure out of his mind. Thinking that everything would come true tomorrow, he sneered coldly. Don't worry, I'll leave Blue Fantasy to you when the time comes. Jingu glanced at Jinlin before his eyes shone brightly. He shook his yellow robes and said, I've already negotiated with the Sky Moon Venom Spider and the Goo Condor. When the time comes, they only want the desolate leopard's bones and essence blood. I want the desolate cliff. As for the treasure, we'll study it together. As long as I comprehend something, I'll be able to take another step forward. Then, I wish Father success. Jinlin was overjoyed. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Tomorrow, Blue Fantasy would definitely not be able to escape from his grasp. They would definitely submit to him. Jejia, Jingu sneered, his voice echoing coldly in the night sky, but it was drowned out by the roars of the surrounding beasts. Roar, woo-woo, early in the morning, when the first ray of light streaked across the darkness before dawn. The shocking roars of beasts in front of the heavenly desolate cliff were like the rumbling of thunder. The earth shook and the mountains shook, and a ferocious aura swept out in all directions. From the sky in front of them, huge, savage beasts blotted out the sky and covered the earth. One could not see the end of them, causing the earth to tremble and the mountains to shake. The heavens and the earth began to shake violently. The huge bodies of the savage beasts galloped like a storm, causing the ground to crack. Large amounts of gravel shot out, and the mountains along the way were trampled flat. Roar. On the Tianhuang cliff, countless savage beasts roared in response. Their ferocious eyes were filled with cold light. As expected, they're here. The desolate sky leopard floated in the sky above the Tianhuang cliff along with many savage beast experts. His eyes hardened slightly. The beast tied in front of them was continuous, and there were more than 1,000,000 of them. Wherever they passed, it was as though a storm was stirred up, causing the heavens and the earth to lose its color. Fight to the end. The eyes of the savage beast experts who had been following the desolate sky leopard released a chill. In the face of the incoming army, they could only fight to the end. There was no way out. Desolate sky leopard, stop resisting. If you surrender tactfully, we can spare your life. Why do you have to implicate all your subordinates and die with you? A thunderous female voice was heard from the storm in front of them. Her voice was sharp, and it resounded across the heavens and the earth, causing the beasts on the Tianhuang cliff to tremble. Hundreds of figures had already appeared in the distant sky after her voice sounded. The 3 figures at the front distorted the space, and they were very powerful. The desolate sky leopard looked to the front with a cold expression. A bright light surged from his eyes as he said, Sky Moon Poison Spider, Wild Gujiao, there will be a day when I will destroy all of you. Desolate sky leopard, it's a pity that there is no future. Today is the day you die. The voice was deafening, and the sound waves spread out like ripples. A middle-aged man stepped out from the front. He was thin, and his face was somewhat ferocious. His eyes revealed a fierce light. However, the invisible aura of this young man distorted the surrounding space. Without a doubt, he was an expert at the beast region level. He was also one of the 3 rulers of the Tianhuang continent, the wild Gujiao. Everyone, the desolate sky leopard can't even protect himself. Surrender. On account of our past relationship, I will ensure your safety. Don't follow the desolate sky leopard to your deaths. Jingu stepped out. His yellow robes fluttered, and his hair danced. His voice resounded across the sky, attempting to disrupt the morale of the Tianhuang Cliff army and cause them to surrender without a fight. Jingu, I will definitely destroy your spirit once you land in my hands. Killing intent shot out from the desolate sky leopard's eyes as he looked at Jingu in the distance. His aura surged, causing the temperature on the Tianhuang cliff to drop significantly. Swoosh swoosh. Several figures flew out from the Tianhuang cliff and landed beside the desolate sky leopard. They were the 4th elder, Jialo Yi, and the 5th elder, Jialo Yuan-tu. Great commander, let me do it. Du Xiaofu walked at the front. His gaze had already swept across the front. He indicated to the desolate sky leopard that there was no need to worry, and stepped into the air. The 4th elder, Jialo Yi, and the 5th elder, Jialo Yuan-tu, did not follow. They glanced at the lineup in front of them and did not take it to heart. They had only come out to watch the show. Only the Zither demon and his mount followed behind Du Xiaofu, crossing through space. Brother Xiaofu, be careful. Blue Fantasy was worried, and her face paled. She knew how terrifying the Sky Moon poison spider and the wild Gu Jiao were. They had already reached the beast region level. It's him. It's the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Why is he here? Jin Lin's expression changed drastically when Du Xiaofu appeared. How could Jin Lin forget about the Demon King, Du Xiaofu? Even the dragons, Dragon 9, had been killed by him. Jin Lin had suffered greatly back then. Later on, when the Jinlei Tensei mansion opened, Jin Lin had personally witnessed how tyrannical and savage the Demon King was. Now that he saw him again, he still felt a lingering fear. It's that kid. Why is he here? Jingu also recognized Du Xiaofu, and a cold glint surged in his eyes. Beside Jin Lin and Jingu, the wild Gu Diao and a middle-aged woman in a gray-white dress looked at Du Xiaofu and were also secretly moved. Back when the Jinlei Tensei mansion was in the Tianhuang continent, the desolate sky leopard had sought revenge from the ancient Fist sect. The two of them had also seen the purple-robed youth from afar. Is it that kid? He seems to have many treasures on him. The middle-aged woman and the wild Gu Jiao looked at Du Xiaofu with a cold glint in the depths of their eyes. There was also a hint of greed in their eyes. So noisy early in the morning. How irritating. Du Xiaofu took to the air and turned a deaf ear to the endless tide of ferocious beasts below. He glanced at the middle-aged woman and the Gu Condor from the corner of his eyes before lazily stretching himself. He said indifferently, "You must be that little spider and little bird. You've just ascended to the beast domain realm, so you're barely passable. Submit to me, and I'll spare your lives." As Du Xiaofu spoke, the roaring beasts in the surroundings quietened down. The purple-robed youth who looked young was actually looking sideways at the Sky Moon poison spider and the wild Gu Jiao, the two rulers of the Tianhuang continent. How domineering and overbearing was his tone. In fact, the purple-robed youth did not even look straight at the two rulers of the Tianhuang continent. This shocked all beasts. Even the desolation leopard on the desolation cliff broke out in cold sweat at this moment. The desolation leopard knew that Du Xiaofu was perverse and powerful, but that kid's tone was a little too arrogant. "Kid, you're dead for sure today." The wild Gu Jiao stared at Du Xiaofu and did not say anything else. Killing intent surged out of its eyes. The killing intent in its eyes was enough to prove everything. Who do you think you are? This is the Tianhuang continent. Puny human, you're courting death. Jin Lin spoke and looked at Du Xiaofu with disdain. He had suffered a great loss back then, and now that he had someone backing him up, he could not help but feel delighted when he saw that Du Xiaofu had provoked the wild Gu Jiao and the Sky Moon poison spider. It was equivalent to him being on the verge of death. It could be considered as revenge. In particular, when he saw the graceful figure in the distance on the desolation cliff in front of him, Jin Lin's lips curled into a perverted smile. It was as if he had a premonition that the graceful figure in front of him would be at his mercy. Today was really a good day. How dare a puny beast venerable be so presumptuous in front of the president? A sharp voice resounded. The middle-aged man who followed the zither demon, Shangguan Qixian, stepped out. It was not difficult for him to see that Jin Lin was only a beast venerable. How could he be worthy of the president's attention? All right, I'll leave it to you. I'll roast a lion later. Du Xiaofu nodded at the zither demon's mount. He looked at Jin Lin and was not affected by his words. Instead, he looked like he was about to drool. Jin Lin dared to have designs on Blue Fantasy because Little Tiger had taken a liking to Blue Fantasy. Du Xiaofu, who was the most protective of his children, had naturally been unhappy with Jin Lin for a long time. If not for the fact that he had some status now and had to maintain some dignity for the sake of the golden-winged great rocks, Du Xiaofu would have killed Jin Lin immediately without hesitation. Yes, President. After receiving Du Xiaofu's tacit approval, the zither demon's mount could not help but laugh when he thought about the roasted meat later. Who do you think you are? You're courting death. Jin Lin's face was extremely gloomy when he heard the zither demon's mount's words and did not take him seriously at all. If he was facing the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, Jin Lin would really be afraid and would not dare to do so. However, he had always been arrogant in the Tianhuang mainland and did not take the zither demon's mount seriously. The middle-aged zither demon's mount looked at Jean Lin and sneered. He looked straight at Jean Lin and said with some mockery, "You don't know what's good for you. Come and die."